Sword of Coming Chapter 994. On February 2nd the dragon looked up. The bucket points to the east, the spica is beginning to show and things change for spring. It is an image of the growth of all things, birds and beasts give birth to horns, and the grass and trees are armored. From this, spring farming begins. The imperial courts of various countries will meet today, led by the two ministers of rights and military, and present agricultural books to the monarch of a country to show the foundation of affairs, implying that the major events of the country lie in the sacrifice and the wrong, but the foundation of a country is in the army. Farmers in the fields. The emperor entertained his ministers, drank Ichuan wine brewed in the ancient way and gave knives, rulers and other objects from the manufacturing office, all of which are made of white jade, indicating that all the princes are gentlemen, and they must be careful to judge and weigh the meaning of state affairs. The queen is responsible for giving various blue sacks to the imperial ladies who enter the palace. In name they are all sewed by the queen's own hands, not the hands of the palace maids. It is given to relatives, friends and children in their respective families to pray for a bumper harvest and a bountiful New Year's harvest. At the same time, it symbolizes the home of Zhongding and scholarly family, and the warehouse is full of etiquette. In Huaihuang County, since ancient times on the second day of February, every family has the custom of eating a bowl of longshu noodles in the morning, and this day's pancakes are also named dragon scales. On this day both the town women and the women to be married need to stop the women's red needles. According to the older generation, because the dragon first raised its head on this day, if a needle is threaded, it may hurt the dragon's eyes and cause unhappiness. Young and strong men in small towns bring their children together holding bamboo poles or wooden sticks, and knocking on beams, beds, stoves, etc. higher than the west side of the mountain. The small warehouse is like a stream of water, staying in its own field. On Fulu Street in Taoya Alley it may be more elegant and the meaning of the words is greater. Mostly the weather is good, the Cathay Pacific is safe, the 5 poisons of snakes and scorpions are avoided and no harm is done. In the past 30 or 40 years, because of a broom star in Mud Bottle Alley, the festive words that were originally related to the word peace have become taboos, and they are reluctant to mention them. Today, bless one party's safety has gradually become a very heavy and profound saying. There are even some wealthy portals who moved from the small town to the state city. On this day they deliberately let their children break a piece of porcelain, and then recite the broken piece, which is homophonic with Sui Shui Pinyin 3 times to seek a good omen. The women and girls in the family would go to the iron lock well to pick up water early in the morning, so on this day, it was also the most frequent encounter between Fulu Street and Taoya Lane and the people from other parts of the town. The former were mostly rich and noble. Teenagers and girls in brocade clothes were in groups. As soon as it was dawn, they left the house with a lantern in one hand and a beautiful and delicate celadone pot in the other. The two teams met in their respective streets. Snake walking, draw water here and return the same way. Early in the morning when it was just dawn, Qin Pingon brought the boy in Tsing-yi, the girl in pink skirt, and the millet grains down the mountain together to the ancestral house in Ni Ping Lane. Each has their own division of labor. Qin Pingon first knocked on the beam and the bed with a bamboo pole, and then took Qin Lingjun each carrying a bucket and went out to the iron lock well to fetch water. Boiled pancakes. Because of the order of the provincial governor not long ago, the Huaihuang County government posted a notice that on this day, the iron lock well, which had been banned for a long time, allowed the local people to carry water home. Guizhujia was making up her sleep recently, and she slept darkly every day, but Qin Pingon didn't call her. It's not swordsmanship or cultivation, she really just sleeps. Walking out of the Mud Bottle Alley, Qin Lingjun shook the bucket in his hand and asked in a low voice, "Is it the master's intention to open the water well?" It was the master who greeted the county government in person, and then the court approved it? The rules set by the Dali court in the early years, let alone in Chuzhou, even in the entire Aquarius continent, are extremely important. No one on the mountain dared to violate the rules, let alone change the rules. Qin Pingon shook his head and said, "I didn't mention it. I originally planned to find an opportunity this year to tell the court that the ban would be lifted next year, so it was mostly Zhao Yao's suggestion." Li Song did not return the ban by mountains and rivers to the south of Dadu. Zhao Yao, who was serving as a servant in the Ministry of Punishment, was even more busy, but the Ministry of Household would definitely call him a prodigal who only played with pretense. scolding him for stretching his hands too long. Qin Lingjun said old-fashionedly, "Isn't this just a retreat? Dali officials respect deeds so much and one is more pragmatic than the other. It is normal for Zhao Yao to be so foolish and unpleasant. I remember listening to the incense villain who ordered Mao on time. In recent years, the recompiling of local chronicles in various states, counties in Dali has been included in the local evaluation of the court. It is said that it was the suggestion of Zhou Xian of the Ministry of Punishment. This has to be done with the qi practitioners of the various states. The county records are divided into two parts, and the one collected in the capital city is full of immortal qi, so there are many complaints in the local area." Qin Pingon shook his head and smiled and said, "Seeing merit in the long run, the transformation between reality and reality is very knowledgeable, just like the conversion between gold and silver and copper coins. There are premiums and losses, but if there is no smooth channel for circulation between the two, there will be a big problem. The Dali dynasty will become more and more the same as a powerful country with elite iron cavalry and strong soldiers and horses in the general sense, and gradually disappear. The special and most different Dali, if senior brother Tuiyu was still in power, what Zhao Yao did today would actually be what a country's national teacher would do." Qin Lingjun said honestly, "Master, I don't quite understand it. Anyway, I just think he is very knowledgeable. From this, it can be seen that Zhao Yao is still a guy with some real skills." Qin Pingon smiled and said, "It's true. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to become Bai Ye's anonymous disciple. Zhao Yao left his hometown when he was young and traveled far and wide across the sea. Later, Bai Yi, who rushed to Fuyao continent alone, gave a broken fairy sword Tai Bai to 4 people and Zhao Yao was one of them." Qin Lingjun said with a wicked smile, "According to the cultural background, Zhao Shilang has to be called a master, right?" Qin Pingon nodded and smiled, "That's necessary. Wu Yuan, the current governor of Chuzhou, because he was once a disciple of his senior brother Tuiyu, when he met Qin Pingon he also wanted to call his uncle. There are actually a few such juniors and nephews in the capital, and without exception they all hold high positions and are well-deserved important ministers in the Dali temple. In the small town, there is actually a narrower and cramped road than the mud bottle alley. Just like this alley that takes a shortcut to the Longjing well, if a taller young man walks into it, the eaves are lower than the eyebrows. You can only walk with your head down. If you look up, your forehead will touch the eaves. The alley is not long. The 2 walls are facing each other. In the past, when Qin Pingon went to Sulongjing to fetch water, he would always pass by this place, which can save a lot of leg effort, but the light is dark and a little infiltrating. People of the same age in the town are not afraid to take this road, but Qin Pingon is not afraid of this. Especially when it snows in winter, the dirt road in the alley freezes solidly and turns into ice. Qin Pingon is at the entrance of the alley. He first puts the bucket on the ground, pushes it forward gently, then takes a few steps back and moves forward. Running, kneeling and sliding again, people and buckets pass by one after another, and finally meet at the other end of the alley. The 2 rows of ice picks on the eaves were hit. Take Qin Lingjun out of this dark alley without a name. There is a small well at the entrance of the alley, but the well is small and the water is shallow. In the early years there were 3 or 4 families nearby and there was no need to walk far. Qingguang, the water in the well was exhausted and Qin Pingon, who was not in the mud bottle alley, came here to take advantage of it. In the book I turn to the suspiciousness of Melon Field Li Xia. The truth has been understood long ago, but there is no sentence in the book to explain the truth so clearly. There used to be a vegetable garden by the well, but the soil was poor and thin, and the vegetables that were planted were often short and thin and had a stringent taste. Now the vegetable garden has long been abandoned, and it is full of dilapidated rubble that has been gathered from all over the place. Between hues. Qin Lingjun never came to pay attention to these market scenes. There was nothing to watch. He walked in a big way and suddenly found that the master stopped behind him and didn't keep up. Qin Lingjun turned his head and looked. Qin Pingon just followed quickly and laughed casually. "If I take care of this vegetable garden, the soil quality will be much better, the vegetables grown will not be so astringent, and the taste will be much better." Qin Lingjun laughed and said, "That's for sure. The master is diligent in his hands and feet. He became a kiln apprentice and he knows how to recognize soil, fertilize and cultivate soil. The vegetables in the garden can't grow as tall as people?" Just after walking out a dozen steps, Qin Lingjun was stunned for a moment. He was actually chewing out the aftertaste. He carefully turned his head to look at the master beside him. Qin Pingon smiled and patted the head of the boy in Xingyi. It's good if you know, let alone a few grains of millet, it's easy for everyone to know about it. Qin Lingjun nodded vigorously and took the initiative to change the subject. The guy who went fishing in Huanghu Mountain, called himself Fu Hu, a native of the capital, is now the county magistrate of Pingnan County, and said that the master personally invited him to go fishing in Huanghu Mountain. This surname is Fu. Do you really know the master? A 7th-rank Sesame official who was not too timid, dared to go fishing in Huanghu Mountain, but was caught by Qin Lingjun. Huanghu Mountain used to be a dojo under the flood of water. Of course, it is a treasure land of feng shui, where the fish and dragons hide, the smoke is deep and the clouds and water are misty. Qin Pingon hummed, I know, I fished in Pingnan County together before and Magistrate Fu even gave me a few fish. He is a good talker and he has no official spirit. Fu Hu himself didn't know why he was able to transfer out the Beijing City News office. How could he have such a real shortage of county chief officials? And Pingnan County is still located in Shang County in Chuzhou, which is obviously a sign that the court wants to reuse him. No wonder Fu Hu, who was used to working in Qingshui Yamen, was confused. However, Qin Pingon knew very well that it must have been when he and Lin Jingqing were officials in the same government. Going to the riverside to block Fu Hu, I also have some thoughts of borrowing stones from other mountains to attack Jade. Let's look at Fu Hu's character first. Qin Lingjun said, Fu County Magistrate speaks in a succinct manner. I can't handle the tricks and often can't catch up. Previously, Qin Lingjun accompanied this young official from the capital, and chatted casually for a few words. Fu Hu said that what is the name of Feng Ho and the Prime Minister, and the golden horse in the Jade Hall must be high-spirited, moving and beautiful. Yi Zhizhi, a small official in the Sesame Book and a subordinate official in the book, thinks that he is sparse in talent and knowledge and is narrow and timid. It's a pity that Brother Dafeng was not present at that time, otherwise Qin Lingjun would have to let Jing Dafeng go out and kill Fu Hu's pedantic spirit. Qin Pingon smiled and said, Fu Hu is more than enough to be an honest official. Many noble sons of the poor family who became the peasant family in the morning, ascended to the Hall of Heavenly Sons at night, and entered the official career as an official. It was difficult for a word of wealth. When an aristocratic family member is an official, it is difficult for a well-fed man to not know that a hungry man is hungry. He is afraid that his eyes are high and his hands are low, and his ambitions and talents are sparse. After walking through this shabby alley, the road is wide and wide. The ancient Chinese locust tree is still there. There is a long wooden bench below and a few stone piers. There are green clothes gathering on the tree. The feathers of the birds are similar in color to the leaves, which is difficult to detect. When they make a chirping sound, the people under the tree will look up and the naughty child will take out the slingshot. Gukin is an expert in this way, patient and good. He often returns to Mud Bottle Alley with a long string. Other homes are all feather dusters and shuttlecocks, but Gukan's home is different. Although there was a notice posted by the government office, there were still very few people who came to the Iron Lock Well to fetch water today. Most of them were old people. When they saw Qin Pingon and the boy in Xingyi, they also looked cautious. There is nothing to say and I don't dare to chat up easily. At this moment, the two local old people by the well who have never moved out of the town, they deliberately avoided it and let the soaring Qin Shanzhu carry the water first. Qin Pingon smiled and shouted in the small-town dialect, let them fetch water first. Anyway, according to the customs of their hometown, they are not relatives who have the same surname and rank according to their characters. They only need to call them according to their age. For example, the old people are in their 60s and they are one generation higher than Qin Pingon. You can just call your uncle. And Qin Lingjun had to call his grandfather in the dialect. If Qin Lingjun called his grandfather, the boy in Xingyi would have to call the other party Mrs., and the wife in the town can be called by both men and women. After Qin Pingon carried the water and left, the two old men whispered. Is this Qin Pingon at 40 years old? Yes, it looks like a person in his 30s. Not long ago, I met Qin Dequan in the state city and said that according to their Qin family tree, Qin Pingon wanted to lower him by 3 generations, and when he saw him he would call his wife. The other old man turned his head and spat fiercely, scolding him with an old saying. In the distance Qin Lingjun listened and found it funny. Qin Lingjun not only understands the local dialect of the small town here, but also speaks the same as the locals. When he talks about it, the meaning is similar to losing face. The biggest feature of the small town dialect is that the vocabulary is almost always flat, with little rise and fall. Although it is like that Huang Tingwa outside, it is often different in 10 miles and the pronunciation is different in 100 miles, but it is indeed rare to see the local accents of natives such as small towns. Qin Pingon never minds the idle days of those seniors. It's just that he remembered the lotus flower-blessed land of the past years. He often let Pei Qian, who was eating and drinking, go out to fetch water. Ah Huang, when I returned to Chao Qingqing's house, the well water in the wooden barrel had long since bottomed out. When I entered the house, when Pei Qian lifted the bucket with both hands, he would cover it up and always turned his side, just so that Qin Pingon would not see the bucket. The water level inside, she had to pretend to be very heavy and staggered to the kitchen room. She would first secretly scoop up the water with a bucket, then tiptoe try to raise the bucket as high as possible, and then pour it into the water tank to make the water louder. Is simply a little showman without a teacher. On the way back, I saw an old man from a small town who was throwing ashes on the ground and walking. As time goes by, 20 years are one life, and the door will be opened again after the Liju cave has landed, and it will communicate with the outside world. So this sight is becoming less and less common. When Qin Lingjun first arrived in the town, he could often see the people of the town busy with such things. Qin Lingjun asked, "Master, why do we never throw ashes to attract dragons?" Since he came to Luopao Mountain, the master never seemed to have any way of attracting dragons. On the second day of the second lunar month, he was just knocking bamboo poles and eating noodles. Qin Pingon smiled and said, "My family had it when I was young. Later, because I didn't know the details of the rules here, I had to cooperate with many old sayings to attract dragons. I didn't understand anything and I was afraid that if I messed up I would break the taboo, so I just think about it. Never mind." In previous years, every February 2nd, the elderly of all families were busy, but they should not be busy. It was important. After the second day of February, when the sun was high, the light passed through the fence gate on the easternmost side of the town. You can sprinkle ashes to attract dragons, but if it is cloudy and rainy, you can only wait patiently. If it is only cloudy and no rain, you can choose the time. Worry about the whole year. There are as many as 5 ways to attract dragons, and each household has a different number of ways. Generally speaking, there are many kinds of people who are prosperous. Like carrying water home from the iron lock well, it is one of them. All the people in the town can do it. Just carry water and pour it into their own water tank. It is the easiest way to attract dragons. In addition, there are several more ceremonial ways of attracting dragons, most of which are organized by the elderly who are familiar with the customs at home. For example, in the past I chose an old locust tree or a big stone near the road near my home, and used the ashes of the stove to spread a gray line around it, and then let the youngest child in the family, both men and women, hold a red thread tied with a copper coin and put it in the circle. If the family is rich, use a red rope to tie a piece of gold and silver. The child is responsible for pulling the money home. When pulling copper coins, gold and silver, a hole needs to be opened in the circle like a dragon spitting water, and water is money, which is equal to it is to open up a way to bring money into the home, and then put the copper money into a celadone piggy bank, and then the head of the family is responsible for covering the porcelain jar with his own hands, and the money is kept in the house. With fortune the new year, the whole family will not worry about eating and drinking. In addition, some old people chanted words, scattered the ashes of plants and wood stoves in a horizontal line at the door of the house to block the door and warded off disasters, or scattered dragons and snakes in the corners of the wall to block evil spirits. Or in the courtyard and the drying yard, first stack the whole grains in the shape of a hill, and then sprinkle ashes to form a circle like water surrounding the mountains. Bless the harvest today and the warehouse is full. There are also some wealthy gates with many fields, and they are even more particular. There is a saying that Huang Yingqing is sent, there must be 2 people, one of whom has a bag full of grass ash on his waist, and sprinkled it all the way to the Longxi River outside the town. Using a bag of grain bran to lead a dragon home has both the meaning of attracting the dragon from the field and the saying of sending the of poverty away to welcome the of wealth at the same time. If in the past the master gave this explanation, Qin Lingjun would have heard it, but today was different and he quickly wanted to understand the real reason. The master didn't tell any lies. When he was young, the master never read books and no one was willing to teach him these ways. He really didn't understand the rules and taboos of attracting dragons, but the real reason was because the master at that time was in his hometown. Maybe he is a taboo himself. Qin Pingon asked with a smile. Have you thought about the way out? Qin Lingjun asked in confusion. What? Qin Pingon said, burning grass and trees into ashes, raising mountains, diverting water, tying trees, and diverting money involves the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and soil. The reason why each household has a different way of attracting dragons is that they need to cooperate with the 5 elements. Numerology: if there are many people in the family, you can collect 5 kinds of ashes to attract dragons, and if there are few people you can only choose 2 or 3 kinds. Qin Lingjun nodded and said, Master originally said this. I have long wanted to understand, and I thought Master was going to say something mysterious. When a chestnut fell, Qin Lingjun, who was already prepared, quickly turned his head. It seems that in every country and village, there is an inexperienced and demented fool, and then Qin Lingjun is like the one who thinks there is no such thing. Yes, we don't have it here. Qin Pingon walked back to Mud Bottle Alley, passing by the Chow family's ancestral house, and glanced at the house next door to the left of his ancestral house, then walked into the courtyard and poured water into the tank with Qin Lingjun. Nuan Shu and Xiaomi had already prepared tableware and chopsticks, and sat together around the table in the main room, eating the long-bearded noodles that should have been bland, but Nuan Shu specially brought a few kinds of dry mountain vegetables that she picked and dried by herself. Qin Pingon and the others enjoyed their meal. Qin Lingjun, who was sitting at the door, finished his bowl, coughed and tapped his chopsticks, indicating that some stupid girl had some eyesight. Just as Qin Pingon gently pushed the empty bowl in his hand, Qin Lingjun got up immediately. A white bowl in each hand, let the master wait for a while and then went to the kitchen to pick noodles. After taking his seat again, Qin Lingjun rolled up a big chopsticks of noodles, took a breath and asked, Master, Xing Dafeng is really going to Xindu Mountain. Xing Dafeng has just returned to Luopa Mountain and is about to leave. Qin Lingjun must be the most lost one. It would be more exciting if he could chat with Brother Dafeng every day. Qin Pingon said, I will persuade him again. Don't look at Xing Dafeng's previous reasons, but in fact there is only one real reason to make way for Xianwei. Cui Dongshan's warm invitation just gave Xing Dafeng an excuse to persuade Qin Pingon and Xianwei. Qin Lingjun was relieved. The master was willing to personally go out and keep him, and if he cooperated with him and played side drums, he would definitely leave Brother Dafeng, and he was somewhat sure. Qin Lingjun said vaguely, because I didn't know the exact time when the master returned to his hometown. Li Huai left the dragon boat ferry with Nin Daoist and went directly to the academy. Qin Pingon nodded. Li Huai and Nin Daoist, who attended the opening ceremony of Huangliang sect together with Qin Lingjun and Guizhuzhou before, did not return to Nujiadu together, because Li Huai wanted to go to Xianxia Academy quickly, and he had the status of a sage. After all, it was different. Now some academy affairs require his presence. In addition, Qin Pingon has already replied to Brother Mao and sent another letter to Li Huai saying the same thing, that is, in the name of Xianxia Academy, he invited the Taoist Nin to participate in the excavation of Dadu and Tongyi's Hao. After all, Taoist Nin had a Li Huai whose identity was hidden on the mountain. This matter, Xianxia Academy will not publicize it, and the Academy and the Confucian Temple will only record it secretly. Before Mao Xiaodong was promoted to the office of the Secretary of the Academy of Rites, he was the deputy head of Xianxia Academy who had been abbot of specific affairs for many years. It was naturally more appropriate for him to discuss this matter with the academy than Qin Pingon. Internally, it was like jumping up the ranks and serving as the second in command of a Confucian school, especially the Book of Rites School. Xianxia Academy and the Gao dynasty of the Great Sui dynasty were all honored. As for how Li Huai suddenly became a sage appointed by the Confucian Temple, it is estimated that the academy and the Gao family are still confused to this day. It belongs to the kind of unexpected joy that teaches people how to brag to the outside world. After all, we can't be ignorant of conscience saying that Li Huai from our academy is full of poetry and books. Wait for the seeds of reading, right? Those masters from the academy who came from Confucian scholars may have the only impression of student Li Huai, that they are still hardworking in reading, and always have the lowest grades. Qin Lingjun sighed sincerely. They are all sages of the academy, and Li Huai is also a fool and a fool. I have always seen people as accurate, only on Li Huai's side I have missed the mark. Wanshu glanced at Qin Lingjun silently and Xiaoman sighed and shook his head. Qin Lingjun just pretended that he didn't see or hear it. The two girls had long hair and short knowledge and knew a hammer. I am the little prince of the royal river, the little dragon king of the Luapa mountain. I have come and gone in the wind and waves and I have grown old in the rivers and lakes. Apart from my own master who can know better than me the dangers of the rivers and lakes. Qin Pingon smiled. On the way to study at Dasui Shanaya Academy together, Li Huai once told Qin Pingon about an embarrassing incident, saying that he was naughty when he was a child. He was beaten once and it was a solid beating so that his blossomed and he cried. It turned out that Li Huai was once taken by his sister Li Lu to draw the money dragon. He deliberately dragged the red thread copper coins, and turned the circle of gray lines sprinkled by Li Lu. As a feat she showed off to her parents and the woman turned pale on the spot. She first grabbed her daughter's ear and then pinched her daughter's arm. If you don't stop Huaizi, the woman doesn't worry about wealth or anything. Anyway, the family is so poor, not to mention that they can't afford to worship the god of wealth. It is estimated that even the of poverty is not rare in their house. She is just worried that Li Huai is so poor. It is taboo to do it. Li Huai is young and can't stand the strange things that some old people often talk about. Therefore, no matter how much a woman feels sorry for her son, it is difficult for her to be served by her family. Pressing Li Huai on the long bench is like a feather duster. In fact, it's just pretending to be seen by God. You've already learned a lesson, so don't be angry. It's just that the woman was still worried. That was the only time she brought a gift to the backyard of the Yang family's shop. She humiliated herself and asked the unreliable master of her own man for help. The old guy knows a lot, maybe there is a way to remedy it. At least Li Huai couldn't be implicated. After hearing about it, the old man Yang, who was puffing up the clouds, still had the same paralyzed expression for thousands of years. He just said nothing taboo or taboo. The woman became anxious when she heard it. Li Huai is not your grandson. You, an immortal thing, don't take it seriously, right? Seeing that woman was about to cry, make trouble and hang herself, the dark-faced old man had to put away the tobacco pole and tell her to stop arguing. Although the woman was skeptical, she immediately shut up. In the end of the year, apart from going into the mountains alone to collect herbs, the elderly who hardly stay at home rarely go out with a cigarette stick around their waists. The old man Yang went to the side room full of debris and fetched a bag. The old man said with a blank expression, telling the woman not to follow him. The woman is not afraid of this ruthless old man, but she is afraid of those illusory old rules. When old man Yang left the pharmacy and came, the woman asked her daughter Li Lu, who was traveling with her, to secretly take the door-to-door gift that she had placed on the counter in the front room of the pharmacy and take it home. According to the woman's little calculus, this time she came to ask for help. First let the old man see the gift she brought, and when she went to the backyard of the pharmacy, if she could do it, she would grit her teeth and give it away. If it didn't work well, the old guy still has the face to receive gifts. Now, looking at the appearance and posture of the old man when he goes out, it is estimated that he is almost certain. Since he is half of his own family, it is not a festival today, so what gift should he give? After cleaning up the dishes, Qin Pingon took them to Qilong Lane. On the Chuzhou side, I think that the business of the hair-shaving shop is the best today. The children are caught by their elders and have their hair cut. However, this is a custom that exists everywhere in the outside world. In fact, this is not the case in the small town in the early years. For example, Hongzhou town is the place where the three rivers meet, and there is a custom of raising dragon boats in the morning and setting up dragon lanterns at night. The latter is the ethos brought by those low-registered boatmen. They are the remnants of the old Xianxia kingdom. They belong to the sinners who have not yet been pardoned by the court. They have gathered in a river bay for generations and cannot go ashore. The dragon boat made of reeds and sorghum stalks, put an oil bowl, light candles, put it into the river bay and flow downstream with the water, meaning that the dragon illuminates the night road in the water. Today in Chuzhou City, which is in the same city as the state capital, there is a custom of making dragon boats and setting lanterns. Qin Lingjun pouted and said, Brother Jia is very busy now and he is the second in charge. He is not at home all year long and he is wandering in the sky. If this goes on, he will make more new friends and I am afraid that he will not recognize my trouble. Brother. Old Taoist Jia is a very nostalgic person. Qin Pingon smiled and said, Cui Dongshan intends to draw Lao Taoist Jia to the Qingping sword sect, and join the lineage of the Palm Law genealogy, which is specially responsible for teaching the disciples that they go out and travel the world. When Qin Lingjun heard the words, he immediately became anxious and felt that he had to give his own master some risky advice. Master, Brother Jia can't be dug up by the big white goose. The big white goose is endless and lawless. You have to manage really knock. Besides, if Brother Jia goes there and changes the genealogy ultimatum, Zhao Dengao and Jur must not go with him. After all, our Luopa mountain is the upper sect, and now the number of members of the genealogy ultimatum has already lost to the next sect. Stop it, sir, I said it in advance, but it's not that I save others by myself. I just think that with the virtue of the big white goose, I will bring the next sect to our upper sect to participate in the discussion in the future, and I will definitely bring a lot of people together. When you go to Jisa Peak, you have to shake hands with us. Qin Pingon smiled and nodded. It's something Cui Dongshan can do. Qin Lingjun said, if there is such a day, I will definitely be very angry anyway. Qin Pingon turned his head to look at Nuanshu and Millet and asked with a smile, what do you think? Millet frowned. Today I went down the mountain without a walking pole and a golden pole. She tugged at the rope that was carrying the bread, nodded and shook her head, not as angry as Jingqing, right? Angry must be angry. Nuanshu said softly, Master, now our mountain is much deserted. Listen, let's. Qin Lingjun gave a thumbs up. It was rare for a stupid girl to say something smart. It was like holding a discussion at the Zushi Hall on the inner hillside. Seeing that the three of them all agreed, Qin Pingon nodded and said, don't worry, I have it all. Came to Qilong Lane, walked down the steps and went to Chaotu shop first. The girl Cui Huahuan left here and had already boarded the Fengyuan ferry. Soon she was a member of Qingping Sword Sect's genealogy. Only Zhao Dengao and Tianjur were left as shop assistants. When they saw the mountain master who was visiting, they were two brothers and sisters from the same family. They both saluted Qin Pingon immediately. Qin Pingon glanced at Jur's face and felt relieved. Nodded, chatted with them a few words, looked through the account book symbolically, walked through the scene, and then went to the New Year's shop next door. The white-haired boy has moved to the sword worship platform, except for the need to teach disciple Yao Xian Taoism. Now that he has the identity of a genealogist, he will go to the gate of Luopa Mountain every day to wait for the rabbits, waiting for the guests to come to the door, and record them in the book. In maintaining the old customs of the town and introducing new customs, Jiao Lao Xianxian, who rides the Dragon Lane, has made a lot of contributions and has made great contributions. In the past few years, for the happy events in the small town, regardless of the rich or the poor, as long as the neighbors invited me, the old fairy Jia would almost always come to help. From the beginning to the end, everything was very organized. The old immortal teacher, his reputation is getting bigger and bigger. Even in the city, he likes to call the old fairy Jia to go to the town and organize all kinds of weddings and weddings. 1 to 2, whether the old fairy Jia comes to the door or not, it becomes the prestige of the city. A benchmark, not to mention that the old Jia does not ask for money. The wealthy doorway with a well-off family gives a big red envelope. The receipt is correct. The poor family, the old just eats a meal, drinks a small wine, and never a word complaints, and then invited again. The old gods are willing to come to the door. Every year in the town on the first day of the first lunar month, the elderly go a lot, so when to set off firecrackers, and set off firecrackers is also a question that Jiao Lao Xianxian often asks when he goes to the door to ask for dinner on the evening of the 30th of the new year. There are even people in the state city who will come to the town's riding Dragon Lane during the New Year's Day to ask the old fairy about this, so as not to miss the auspicious time of the new year. It is the explanation and leading actions of the old Jia, which made Huaihuang County and Chuzhou City gradually have a new custom over the years, because only then did they know that the second day of the second month was the birthday of the land god. According to the old god, it was rumored that foreigners' folks have long had the custom of offering sacrifices. In the eyes of the common people, the gods of various mountains and rivers and the lords of the state and county city gods, although they have great magical powers and protect one's local customs, can inevitably have good and bad temperament, and often the temples are deep, and the golden statues enshrined in the main hall are tall and majestic, easy to let go. People are intimidated, so as of good fortune, but with the lowest official rank, the land public is the most popular official for people. Because the temples of the earth are mostly scattered with the dwellings, and even some of the temples of the earth are just stone statues carved on the side of the road. Therefore, under the leadership of the old goddess Jia, Every household who believed in these developed the habit of warming the longevity for the land public. Playing gongs and drums, setting off firecrackers, it is very lively. At the New Year's shop, it was found that Shi Ro and Zhou Xian were also eating dragon beard noodles, and she was still a little mute. Returning to Luopao Mountain, each is busy. The warm trees are going to sweep the courtyard, and the millet grains are going to patrol the mountain with Jingqing. He went to the house and knocked on the door. The sleepy-eyed man opened the door, bent over and pulled his boots, complaining to the mountain owner, saying that he finally had a good dream, and it is hard to say whether he will continue tonight. Qin Pingon took Xing Dafeng to climb the mountain and came to the top of the mountain, because Jilin Peak was higher than Tiandu Peak, leaning on the railing and overlooking the town with smoke curling in the east. Qin Pingon and Xing Dafeng looked at the town together. Just one to look at the old school in the small town, and the other to look at the backyard of the Yang family pharmacy. Xing Dafeng pulled his neckline and sighed softly. In the sad place of the world, laboriously see the guest pavilion. Now there are not many acquaintances in the town, and even Huang Erniang's wine shop has moved to the state city, mostly for her son's education so that he can participate in the imperial examinations and be able to be named in the gold medal list. Xing Dafeng asked, "I heard that you plan to be a gentleman who opens a museum?" Qin Pingon nodded with a smile. "I've already found a good place and now I even have a backer." Xing Dafeng asked curiously, "Backer? Where is the sacred place?" Qin Pingon said, "The boundary of Yunzhou in the south of Hangzhou. The Water Gao Brewery has just moved from the Jixiang Temple in the upper reaches of the Baihu River." Xing Dafeng laughed dumbly. Hearing the famous name of this river master, it is like thunder, and a stern and iron bone bears morality, and a dead Taoist friend does not die. However, Xing Dafeng rubbed his chin. He heard that in the Baihu River downstream of the Taiku River, the goddess of water had the nickname Kana on that mountain, and he had admired it for a long time. Qin Pingon said, "The master hired by the Qin family in Longweixi will soon leave Huaihuang County. In the future, the master of the school can only be appointed through the county teaching ordinance." Xing Dafeng leaned against the railing and said lazily, "To be honest, if those scholars who are all famous and move a country, come here to teach a bunch of children to write and write, they will feel aggrieved. That is to say, Long Weixi Chen's asking price is high enough. In addition to the large monthly salary, the rare books in the Chen's family's collection are sent every year. Otherwise, who would be willing to come here? It is really too talented. The key is so many years of preaching, teaching and teaching failed to teach a Jinshe master. It is estimated that the Qin family in Long Weixi worked so hard. In addition to being optimistic about the Dali court, he had to show goodwill to the Dali Song family. He also had a selfish heart and was lucky. He hoped that in his own school, there would be a few similar Qin Pingon, characters like Ma Kushuan and Zhao Yao. Even if there are two people, as long as there is such a person with similar luck and achievements, Long Weixi Chen will earn it. You must know that there is an old master in the new school. He was a very famous literary master of several countries in the middle of Aquarius in the past. This old master with a rich head and a poor scripture took 7 years to finally write a famous commentary. It was carved at 1 year old and the first month of spring. It is the star of Sueda that can be seen in the night sky. This is not some false rumors but a fact that is obvious to all. According to folklore, Emperor Wenchong was in charge of the civil, military and Julu imperial examinations in the world. In some local counties and counties with insufficient cultural and educational background, let alone the Jinshe examination, if there are scholars who pass the examination, they will be regarded as the reincarnation of Wenchong Xing. And tomorrow, which is the 3rd day of the 2nd lunar month, is said to be the birthday of Lord Wenchong, so it is not only at the foot of Haoren Jiuzhou Mountain, the former Lizhu Cave, the old school in the town, and now the Qin family in Long Weixi. The Xianxiang school, founded by Qian Churen according to the custom, collects Meng Tong on this day, which means good, hoping that the seeds of reading will be able to take the lead. It's just that now the masters of the school have some red tape and new rules. The teaching gentlemen wear crowns and vermilion dark clothes. They walk with the Mongolian children who have just entered the school to the Confucian temple outside the town. Go first, worshipping the hanging statue of the most holy teacher and then being led by the temple to a room. The pen and ink have been prepared, but it is not black ink, but ground from cinnabar donated by the government office, and the children line up. Stand up and the master put a pen on their brows. When they returned to the school, the first character taught by Mr. Xueju to the children was the so-called Kaiming Huahong. The first day of school to start writing was the character 4 person. It's just that compared to the past, the school has a lot of new etiquette, but one old thing is missing. In the past, after Meng Tong started writing the word people, he would leave the school under the leadership of Mr. Qi, go to the old locust tree together, set up a ladder and hang a red cloth with different wishes on the tree. Even if it is some cheesy content like abundant wealth or the prosperity of 5 crops and 6 animals, most of which are taught to children by the elders who are enrolled in the school, Mr. Qi will be meticulous and help write his wishes on the long red cloth. Then use a red rope to hang it on the old locust branch. Every time the wind blows and the red cloth blows, there will be a slight rustling sound, one by one from Meng Tong's good wishes like an echo. Maybe that year can be fulfilled, maybe in the next year. Before Mr. Qi and after Mr. Qi there was no such custom. In this world, no matter how high the realm of your cultivator is, he is not a after all, so no one dares to say that there are 4 births and 6 realms, 3 realms and 10 directions. Zheng Dafeng looked towards the town's main street and sighed. That old locust tree should not be cut down, otherwise our state boundary will still be a long-lasting natural cornucopia. Even if it fell to the ground and took root, Dongtian has been downgraded to a blessed land. As long as the locust tree is still there, the Wuling County in the Qingming world, whether it is now or in the future, cannot be compared with this place. Mr. Qi will not stop it, and the master and his old man will not stop it. I was surprised. What do you think? Just let Cui Yu do the fishing and burn the forest and hunt? Qin Pingon said, it may be an ancient sacrifice that is second to none. Zheng Dafeng said, that's why I advise you not to be a national teacher. It's easy to board the ship and enter the game, but to withdraw and retreat. Qin Pingon smiled and said, then I also advise you to stay in Luopao Mountain. When you get to Xindu Mountain, Cui Dongshan will definitely call you. Don't listen to what he said before. As long as you go there, he will have it. The way to keep you busy with this and that. Zheng Dafeng sneered, husbands have clear grievances, especially brothers and sisters. It's just a matter of going there to watch the door. Cui Dongshan, don't think about making me work hard. Zhu Lian and Chen Lingjun borrowed a lot of words from this man. For example, whoever lied to my heart, I want his body. Whoever cheats me of money, I will cut off their head. It's no wonder that Wei Bo admires Zheng Dafeng, except that his appearance is not so upright. He has no flaws. Qin Pingon said, seriously, you don't need to go to Tongyi's How. Okay, don't persuade you. If you are the owner of Lu Island who is on the back of the clawfish, if you keep it like this, I will leave it if you stay. You're a big gentleman. Don't bother me, even if you don't bother me. After Zheng Dafeng was joking, he was silent for a moment, then shook his head and said sternly, if Daoist Xianwei is not a gatekeeper, even if he becomes a cultivator of Luopa Mountain, the heat is still wrong. Qin Pingon was able to endure not to put Xianwei in the courtyard, and always put Xianwei at the foot of the mountain rather than on the mountain, which means that they only get along with each other as Taoist friends. In the preface of the previous manuscript, the words, Taoist Xianwei, at the beginning in Zheng Dafeng's view, are actually more thrilling than the content that follows. Zheng Dafeng is so fearless and it sounds ugly. When he saw the opening 4 words, his scalp tingled on the spot, so he was not a Qi practitioner, otherwise he would be unstable. Qin Pingon said, then I told Cui Dongshan in advance that you are just a guest. Zheng Dafeng suddenly turned his head, stared at Qin Pingon and asked in a deep voice, Qin Pingon, what's the matter with you? Qin Pingon smiled bitterly, it's hard to say a word. Because Zheng Dafeng keenly discovered a subtle quirk just now. When Qin Pingon looked at the old school in the town, he frowned from time to time and his mood was complicated, but the only emotion that Qin Pingon should not lack was sadness. Zheng Dafeng is no better than ordinary people, and even in some things he can understand the truth better than a great ascension cultivator like Xiaomo, so he can detect something wrong in an instant. The 7 emotions and 6 desires of human beings can be divided by the monks of later generations, just like the well-field system implemented in the ancient times, through roads and canals. The monks' hearts were staggered and divided into pieces. In fact, the immortal mansion on the mountain in the later generations, the house under the mountain, the square market in the city, the mountain and water in geography, the land and the sea, the seasons of the year and the 4 seasons of the year, are further subdivided into 24 solar terms. By doing this, Qi practitioners have made the most direct and thorough collection and distinction of the overgrown emotions, which is the true meaning of, the heart is the of the 100 bones, and then established the human spirit in all things. The fact that the heart is in the hands of 100 bones has become a consensus among the world. Qi practitioners strip out those emotions that delay the cultivation of the heart one by one. Because the wasteland is turned into a field, Qi practitioners can only work in the Qi Dongfu. Intensive cultivation and then distinguishing between rice and barnyard grass. It will be much simpler. In the end, this move was used as a shortcut to overcome the Qi barrier and to prove the longevity of the Tao. In the ancient times, the earth immortals on earth wanted to maintain their nature, and they could peel off all kinds of emotions and then gather them together, just like sweeping the floor first. And then pour the fallen leaves and dust into the house, and they will not be thrown out of the house because they can be used as ballast stones in the long river of time. There are many problems that Jing Dafeng had doubts when he was young. When he was young, he went to all kinds of verifications. When he was young, he still knew little about it. Jing Dafeng can be regarded as a spiritual inner show. Just talking about Go, Jing Dafeng's chess power is even higher than that of Zhou Xian and Weibo. Although this is because Zhou Xian only regards chess player talk as a trivial matter and never wants to spend more time, but changing the so-called national player's chess decree, to go down with the old cook to have a look? Jing Dafeng said helplessly, "Do you like to ask for trouble so much? It's really easy to change your temperament and it's hard to change your temperament. If you change someone, I will say that a dog can't change and eat shit. Do it for yourself, don't blame others." Qin Pingan should have stripped out several kinds of emotions. As for the specific ones and what their intentions are, Jing Dafeng will not ask more. Every family has a scripture that is difficult to read. When a person closes his heart, it is like closing the country and isolating the world. No wonder Qin Pingan is still stagnant in nascent soul realm. Qin Pingan put his hands against each other's palms, rubbed them gently and said with a smile, "My path of cultivation is of course a bit wild, but the taste is very good. Gone, it's not enough for outsiders. Good times are like birds in flight and the palm of your hand becomes a story." The thief Jing Dafeng smiled and said, "I heard Wei Bo said that Gao Jun visited the various departments of Shanjun Mansion in Piyun Mountain, and suddenly changed his mind and planned to stay here for a few more days." Qin Pingan said, "The quilt is useless. She is a woman and would like to live with you in Xianwei. What are you thinking?" Gao Jun was reluctant to leave, and made up his mind to observe the vast world beyond the blessed land. It seems that it is similar to Pei Qian going to school in the village school in the past. It can be delayed for a few days. I heard from the old cook that the first time Pei Qian went down the mountain to go to the small town school, he was actually playing crazy outside for a day, and then pretended to limping back to Luopao Mountain saying that he had a broken foot. If it wasn't for Zhu Lian's trump card saying that he would inform her master, it is estimated that Pei Qian would have been able to go to school for a long time. Even so, even if Pei Qian was reluctant to go to the school in the first few days, Zhu Lian, in order to prevent Pei Qian from skipping class, was a battle of wits and courage. The mountains stretch, the peach-red willows are green, the mountain guests look at the feet of the clouds, and the children sweep the flowers. On the other side of the town, the sun is shining brightly, and swallows hold mud and go back and forth between the fields and houses. Qin Pingan said in his heart, "If your senior brother is the same person, then according to the records in the secret archives of the Summer Palace, his real name is Yan Gua." Jing Dafeng smiled. "Why is senior brother Xia having such a surname? He took such a name." Swallows are also small birds, but according to the ancient Chinese character Yan in seal script from bird to e, they are the giants of heaven and earth. Jing Dafeng turned around, leaned back against the railing, looked at the mountaintop palace that was originally a mountain temple and said, "I heard that Lin Shui is in retreat?" Qin Pingan nodded. Before the retreat, Lin Shui sent a secret letter. In fact, there was only one sentence in the letter: "You can go to the Logging Institute for New Year greetings in the first month of next year." Jing Dafeng said with a smile, "Then you are not relieved. This friend will not break up only because of the grievances of his parents." Qin Pingan took out 2 pots of wine from his sleeves and handed Jing Dafeng a pot. It's not an exaggeration to say it's a relief. Of course, the reason why he didn't go to pay New Year's greetings was not because he was afraid of hitting the wall and shutting the door, But Qin Pingan always felt that in the style of Lin Shui, saying yes in the letter was a hint of not necessary. After all, although Lin Shui has been meticulous since he was a child, he is not the kind of person who likes to be around the corner. Pretending to be an umbrella. Therefore, according to Lin Shui's consistent style, if he really wants to go to his father's New Year's greetings, most of the letters will use the word must. In addition, thinking that with Lin Shui's cultivating qualifications, it is very likely that he will leave the customs in the first month. Qin Pingan will reply to the letter and ask at that time. I never thought that Lin Shui has not yet left the customs. Zheng Dafeng didn't drink, just shook the jug and suddenly said something that left Qin Pingan dumbfounded. Then do you know that Lin Shui was almost the one? Qin Pingan took a sip of wine. Zheng Dafeng smiled and said, do you think Li Huai is more like him? Qin Pingan shook his head. I thought Li Huai was the least like it from the beginning. It means that you knew the old man better than me a long time ago. Zheng Dafeng nodded. Master is so willing to be Li Huai. Just think about this little bastard. He will be carefree all his life. He only needs to have an occasional flash of inspiration and live a stable life. Don't feel that you stole something. Lin Shui failed to keep this one in the end. For him it was the best fate. Otherwise he would have been eaten by some guy who went to the sky. If you don't believe it, you can find a chance to find Lin Shui and ask him personally. The answer he gave must be indifferent and firm in his Taoism. I think Lin Shui has been a Taoist and a scholar since he was a child. So the future achievements will be very high. Anyway, going back from the results, Cui, you must have been the first person to pass the life porcelain and noticed a hint of it, so he immediately came to Lizhu Cave and gave Lin Shui such a name in person, and then invited him. Only Lin Jingqing, one of the assistant officers of the Kiln Supervision and Construction Department, served as the custodian. Of course, Lin Shou took the lead when he was born, and it was absolutely impossible to do it with external force and manpower. Lin Shui in this life is equivalent to relying on his ability to accumulate his previous life and reincarnation time and time again to cast such a good child. Therefore he and you are two extremes. Looking at the long river of time in Lizhu Cave, Yuchen Pingan, there are also many ordinary people from the small town. Relatively speaking, it is really unsurprising, especially when your natal porcelain has been inspected and it is the qualification of the earth immortal, and then it is broken. It's not you anymore. In this matter, the master all confirmed it back then. To be precise, the master probably regarded you as a person early on. But Cui Ye's mind was treacherous and he deliberately used the name Lin Shui to mess up the heavens. Not only me but also master and his old man didn't understand Cui Ye's intentions. Before I went to the colorful world, I talked to Master about this alone, and Master shook his head and said he couldn't see clearly. From the beginning to the end, I didn't know whether Cui Yu wanted Lin Shui, who had a prototype of one early, and whether he would become that one in the future. I still don't want him to get such a good fortune. Qin Pingan, you should have heard an old saying, if a person is roughly sure that his fate is good, don't let anyone tell his fortune casually, it will get thinner and thinner. Cui Yu just used the name Lin Shui to determine whether his original intention was to promote or hinder him. There seems to be no answer. It's wrong again. Maybe that's where Cui Yu really shines. In the past, everyone in Lizhu Cave was one, and the flow of luck had nothing to do with good or evil. It had nothing to do with whether he was a cultivator or not. It was only a matter of mutual recognition and denial between people. Those who are recognized will add a few points, and those who are denied will reduce a few points. In this way, whether you look at people's hearts from the surface or the eyes of a monk on the mountain, you, the broom star of Mud Bottle Alley, are you? Isn't it the last thing you should be one? Qin Pingan, it's wrong. It's a big mistake because you still don't know enough about the real situation in the heart of the human heart, the real likes and dislikes. In fact, it is never on the face, not even in our heart. As for where it exists, this problem is very far-reaching, such as where the voice comes from, who speaks, and the relationship between people and memory, who is driving the idea, and whether the souls of all sentient beings originate from a piece of water. Things like that are more complicated. Zheng Dafeng said with a dry mouth, opened the jug, raised his head to drink, wiped his mouth and couldn't help laughing. Just send me with Dong Shijing's glutinous rice wine? Qin Pingan smiled and said, if you stay in Luopao Mountain, even if I rob it, I will back a few jars of 100 flowers brew for you. Zheng Dafeng's eyes lit up. Tiskeiske admiringly said, Baihua Brewing, an ancient tribute from Baihua Blessed Land? Qin Pingan nodded and said, know the goods. Zheng Dafeng said, didn't they say that they will no longer be brewed? It seems that the difficulty is not too big. Qin Pingon, who is sincere, said decisively, "Otherwise, how can I show my sincerity?" Sword of Coming Chapter 995. As the old saying goes, husband leisure Qing Fu also. Since being idle is also idle, and being idle is a kind of happiness, Lu Xianying took a round-faced girl with the pseudonym Yu Qianyue and traveled to the northernmost part of Aquarius Island. They wandered along the long coastline. After a lap, Lu Xianying went to the sea every day, brought pots and pans and simmered a pot of seafood, so Lu Xianying forgot what the taste of fresh river was. Whenever Lu Xianying stopped and took a nap, the girl with the round face in the cotton coat sat quietly beside him. When Lu Xianying returned to Zhongmen Mountain, he found that the blacksmith Wan was still casting swords behind closed doors, and his younger brother Xieling was in seclusion. This object was the treasure that was given to Xieling by Yujing's third headmaster. It is a colorful glazed pagoda, half a foot high with 9 floors with plaques hanging on all sides of each floor, so there are 36 pieces in total. Lu Xianying was very envious and couldn't help but sigh, "It's really good to have a good ancestor." Xingyue didn't talk to her, she just thought about whether there were any flocks of ducks on the other side of the Longshu River. Lu Xianying was still complaining about himself there, saying that his ability to reincarnate was not as good as this junior brother Xie. Otherwise, let alone the fairyland, it would be no problem to just grab an ascension. Donggu, who was on the side, has long been accustomed to this. Anyway, it is his own words behind closed doors and he can't be ashamed to be thrown outside. Moreover, although Lu Xianying said it sourly, it was also true. Brother Xie had a very good chance on the road of cultivation. As Lu Xianying said, it was thanks to the genealogy of the Xie family in Taoya Lane that there was a big man, and it was Beiju. The Tianjun of Luzhou Xieshe. Last time Xieshe returned to his hometown, Xieling, this kid, is equivalent to adding another living ancestor from the family tree out of thin air. According to Lu Chen's statement at that time, this small tower can suppress all the demons and ghosts in the world under the upper 5 realms. Xieling was convinced at the time, and the ancestor Xieshe hesitated, but finally he did not reveal the secret. When the boy who was nicknamed Longmire by Lu Chen in those days grew older and his cultivation realm became higher and higher, Xieling Kai was horrified to discover that the Linglong Pagoda, which had never been able to refine its life things, was a genuine immortal soldier. Treasure. The reason why Xieling was able to be a sword cultivator at the same time, and proficient in talismans and formations, stemmed from his concentrated study of this exquisite pagoda. Someone once glanced at it and commented on this treasure. It was concise and concise. There was only one sentence. "This thing is a complete Taoism." Her implication was that junior brother Xieling could start a sect based on this thing alone, in addition to gradually ascending without delaying his practice. After chatting with Donggu for a few more words, Lu Xianying was finally willing to spit out the licorice root in his mouth. He stood up and asked senior brother Dong and senior sister Su to say hello. After half an hour they would go to Zhoushan for a meal together. He, the suzerain, wants to be a corporal and cook himself. As the founding disciple of Longquan sword sect, Donggu is in the nascent soul realm, but because Donggu was born in a monster and is not a sword cultivator, for Lu Xianying to be the second suzerain, he is a big brother but deep in his heart. As relieved. Su Xiaoqiao is still a sword cultivator in the Golden Core realm, but is limited by her qualifications for Taoism. If nothing else happens, she will stop at the nascent soul realm in her life. Su Xiaoqiao's evaluation of this similar conclusion has always been convinced, but he can't talk about how disappointed he is. Anyway, in the same class, there are Lu Xianying and Xieling, 2 genius brothers and sisters who are sure to achieve high avenues. In addition, Master Wan Qiong never demands anything in the realm of disciples. Su Xiaoqiao's cultivation career in Longquan Jianzong actually lived a long time. Ample and leisurely. It's just Lu Xianying who always thinks that he and Su Xiaoqiao can meet and call the sect master, but Donggu and Su Xiaoqiao have a very tacit understanding. 2 men and women who were not Taoist companions for the time being, on the way to fight the wind together. The late Suyu asked casually, "What is that Xieling refining?" Lu Xianying smiled and said, "An exquisite pagoda of the rank of immortal soldiers." He added, "It was given to junior brother Xia by a guy who overturned the stall by me." Xingyue turned her head and glanced at a mountain, nodded and said, "It's quite valuable." Lu Xianying began to speak again. "I'm a sword cultivator, what's such an external thing? Damn, of course it's nothing. As long as junior brother Xia is willing to give up his love, I'll kowtow to him a few times. Xingyue wondered, you just want immortal soldiers so much? In her opinion, Lu Xianying is the kind of strange sword cultivator who needs the least immortal soldiers. Lu Xianying was stunned. Why? Do you have one? Xingyue nodded and said, you don't understand what the wild world is like. Since you've all gone out, of course you have all your belongings in your pocket, so you have a few pieces in your pocket. Since you want so much, pick 2 pieces. It's pleasing to the eye, take it to refining? Lu Xianying grinned, reached out and patted his cheek. What are you talking about? I'm not Qin Pingon. I look like the kind of person who eats soft rice? Shinobu rolled his eyes. When they got to Zhou Xian, Lu Xianying really put on his apron and started to cook, and he was there to help. Lu Xianying suddenly turned his head and said, Qianyue, maybe I didn't explain that sentence before. Qin Pingon just looks like a soft-boiled person. I don't look like that, I am. On the credit month, he slashed the firewood with a knife and then threw it to the stove. As soon as she heard the name of the young hidden official, she felt depressed and in a bad mood. Lu Xianying smiled and said, don't be depressed, I'll put a sack on him and beat him up in front of you. Xingyue twitched the corners of his mouth. He doesn't dare to do anything to you, so what should I do with revenge? Lu Xianying felt that he had to find an opportunity to open the skylight to this girl and speak brightly. But you have to drink to be brave first. Probably so people who really like someone are cowards. Lu Xianying said, have you ever visited the city before? Have you seen that boy? Shinobu shook his head. It turned out that just now Lu Xianying learned about it from senior brother Dong. In the city of Chuzhou there was a poor boy named Li Xinyuan, who was carrying a snake gallstone of high rank and went from Chuzhou all the way. He walked through Yu Hong and other prefectures and walked to the vicinity of Old Beiyue, which is located in the land of Dalajingji. When the young man reached the gate of Longquan Jianzong, he was almost like a beggar. He wanted to give away the snake gall stone. Use this as a stepping stone to become a disciple of Longquan sword sect. Moreover, he named his surname and wanted to learn from Su Xiaoqiao, whose dojo is located at the Boiled Sea Peak. Even if he could not become the direct disciple of this female sword immortal, he could be an outer disciple temporarily. Boiled Sea Peak is not among the mountains to the west of Lizhu Cave. It is an original mountain peak in the old Beiyue boundary of Dali. I heard that the ancestors of the young man were from the small town for generations, and the ancestral house was on the Erlang Lane. It was only in the hands of the elders in the family that they sold the ancestral house and got a large amount of gold and silver. The government handed over the land deeds in exchange for several new and adjacent large houses. The family had a great foresight earlier, and at the same time purchased a lot of good land outside the city. It is reasonable to say that such a good family is a little more honest and peaceful. After 1 or 2 generations of management, whether it is to become a scholarly family, or to spend money to get rich first and then expensive, in short, it is not difficult. It's just that no matter how big the family business is, it can't be worth the word of gambling, and there are 2 gamblers in the family. If you want to win money at the gambling table, you have not relied on gambling skills since ancient times. In fact, at least 30% of the families who moved from the small town to the state city lost a solid family business at the gambling table. Once a small town teenager, now he is proficient in eating, drinking, prostituting and gambling, or he is a young man who used to be a drunkard, a gambler and a bachelor and becomes an old bachelor. This Li Xinyuan didn't break through the mountain gate, let alone talk nonsense. He built a grass hut in the nearby mountains and lived like a savage. Every time the young man appeared, he would squat on the side of the road at the gate of the mountain, waiting for news, hoping that the Longquan sword sect would allow him to go up the mountain. After meeting a few times in the same family, since the blacksmith Wan was still working on the iron, of course Lu Xianying, the new suzerain, was in charge of the house and he brought a lot of seafood back with him. Dong Gu and Su Xiaoqiao stepped on the meal and came to Zhou Xian's side. They saw Lu Xianying sitting on the master's main table. They didn't say anything. Eating on a bench. Having a home-cooked meal at the same table. This is the tradition of Longquan Jianzong. When discussing the big things, they just chat a few words at the dinner table. True to the old adage, the greatest food in the world is the greatest. Even the matter of Lu Xianying's succession as the suzerain was discussed on the table. Wan Qiong said that Lu Xianying did not refuse, and Dong Gu and Xieling all agreed, even if it was settled. Today's dinner table is nothing more than an extra month on credit, and she is not an outsider. Lu Xianying raised his glass and bumped with senior brother Dong and asked, "If Xia Ling succeeds in refining that treasure and then leaves the border, will it be the Jade Pure Realm?" Dong Gu took a sip of the wine, picked up his chopsticks and said, "I don't know." But Su Xiaoqiao nodded. "Before the retreat, junior brother Xia told me that. Junior brother Xia always speaks prudently. Since he said so, he is inseparable." Lu Xianying turned to look at Dong Gu. "Senior brother Dong, didn't Xia Ling tell you?" Dong Gu shook his head. Lu Xianying smiled again and turned to look at Su Xiaoqiao. Su Xiaoqiao guessed what he was going to talk about and said first, "I advise you not to be scolded. Senior sister understands me." Lu Xianying laughed and said, rubbing his chin, "Our family's long eyebrows are amazing, amazing. Wan blacksmith really got lucky and found a treasure, and the long eyebrows are now in the forefront of the 10 young people in Aquarius. Waiting for him to become Yupu, wouldn't he be on an equal footing with my suzerain? When this kid leaves the border, I have to persuade blacksmith Wan. Since he is no longer the suzerain, then don't put on the air of such a master. Next time before eating together, blacksmith Wan has to offer Xia Ling a toast before moving his chopsticks." Dong Gu didn't speak at all, and Su Xiaoqiao just thought it was Lu Xianying farting. There are not many people who dare to make fun of Wan Qiong in such a huge Aquarius island. Maybe Lu Xianying is the only one. When Wan Qiong came to Longquan Jianzong's mother's home Fengxue Temple, he was a calm temperament. He devoted himself to making swords for many years. Jianxiu didn't look down on the Shingao sect, the leader of the mountain in Izhou, but when he talked about the swordsmith Wan Qiong, it was rare to have a few good words that caught his eye. In addition, Wan Qiong was the last saint in Lizhu Dongtian, and was invited to be the chief worshipper of Dali. He occasionally participated in the discussions in the imperial study in the capital, not to mention His Majesty the Emperor, together with Wei Bo and Jin Qing, including the Dayue mountain monarchs. Wan Qiong is extremely respectful. The Taoist heavenly monarch who goes by the alias Chao Rong, as Lu Chen's direct disciple, Beiju Luzhou He Xiaoyang's senior brother, he once appeared in the capital of Dali, and the rumors are just chatting with Wan Qiong the boring gourd. A few words. Not to mention Lu Xianying, his own disciple who is now famous in Izhou, as well as the young hidden official who blossoms inside the walls and smells outside the walls. It seems that when the two parties were young, they were a long-term worker and a day laborer in a blacksmith shop on the Longshu River, respectively. The gossip Qin Yingguan, who was in the mountains before he made his fortune because he was under the fence, as long as he saw the taciturn Wan Qiong, he would be like a mouse seeing a cat. Therefore, in the mountains south of Dadu in Beipingzu, there are some rumors that only dare to say a few words in private. The reason why Longquan Jianzong moved out of Chuzhou is only because that Qin Yingguan is a character that will be punished. He lost it in the blacksmith shop. His face is now going to be regained, and His Majesty Emperor Dali is so overwhelmed and unable to adjust the contradiction between the two sides, he has to let Longquan Jianzong take a step back, and then let Wan Qiong step down as the suzerain, and Qin Yingguan's young friend Lu Xianying will take over as the suzerain. With the resentment that Qin Pingan has accumulated for many years, he will not completely tear his face with Wan Qiong, and both will suffer. So someone took his own Fengyuan ferry not long ago, and at the old Longqing side he disembarked with his predecessor Song Yuyao, and on the way back to the north he made a special trip to find those who spread this kind of talk, or reported in Shanshuodi the sects of Xinfu who deliberately knocked on the side, went to their ancestral hall, or the cultivating place of the mountain masters and sects, had a cup of tea, had a heart-to-heart talk and reasoned. The honored guests were happy, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Lu Xianying was a little strange. How can this stubborn child be far away from the near and far and come to us to have a meal? Isn't Qin Pingan's Luopa mountain closer? Dong Gu said. It is estimated that it is because Luopao mountain claimed to be close to the outside world. Lu Xianying asked, does that young man have a chance to go up the mountain to practice? The difference between the immortals and the mortals on the mountains and the mountains is as clear as the distinction between people and ghosts. Su Xiaoqiao said, I can barely practice, but my aptitude is just average. Even if I lead up the mountain, whether I can rank in the middle 5 realm depends on my future destiny. The implication is that even if the young man joins the Longquan sword sect, if there is no great opportunity in his future practice, he may not be able to reach the cave realm in this life. Dong Gu hesitated for a while but didn't say anything more. Su Xiaoqiao said this because she had learned a unique secret technique to identify root bones in her early years, which meant that the young man named Li Xinyuan was not an ordinary average aptitude. If you go to another immortal mansion, let alone that kind of tasteless rib, I am afraid that in the eyes of those immortal masters who examine the root and bones, they will not even be called tasteless and they will definitely be rejected. And this secret technique of Su Xiaoqiao is a dream for any sect on the mountain. In the long run it will not lose any treasure in the mountains. Lu Xianying asked, what is his temperament? Whether you can enter the Longquan sword sect, there is an unwritten rule in the hands of the blacksmith Wan. First look at the character and then look at the quality of the aptitude. Donggu said, tough, admit the truth, very willing to endure hardships, but the comprehension is a bit poor, really want to go up the mountain to practice, it is really reluctant. Lu Xianying was instantly amused. Isn't it very similar to someone's youth? Su Xiaoqiao was hesitant to speak but he endured it, thinking about it and forgetting it. That's how you dare to comment on the Lord of Luopao Mountain Qinshan. Lu Xianying said, Senior Sister Su, just accept it. Let Li Xinyuan be an anonymous disciple first. Su Xiaoqiao nodded. Donggu asked, can we accept that snake gallstone? Lu Xianying smiled and said, accept, why not accept it? The FA is not passed on lightly. On the mountain, it has never been a light and empty talk. After all, the rules of the world are never set for a handful of exceptions. Children whose family members fasten their belts and send them to school are expected to pay more attention to reading than those children whose families can go to school with a little money from their fingernails. Lu Xianying smiled. A disciple of the outer sect bought by himself with real money, compared to a disciple of Zhu Haifeng who was given to him by an outsider in vain over time, which one do you think will carry more weight in the hearts of young people? Anyway, I think the former. As for the snake gallstone, just keep it in the treasury. If Li Xinyuan can successfully enter the cave in the future, and then give it to him in the name of congratulations, he will go around and return to the original owner. Donggu nodded and said, it's very old-fashioned to do things like this. Su Xiaoqiao also heartily agreed. Finally, a bit of a sect master style. Lu Xianying slapped the table. Remove finally, somewhat and already. Su Xiaoqiao laughed and the senior sister said the words, sect master style, in a questioning tone. Lu Xianying reluctantly said, I'm the suzerain, I'm really bad. I'll see blacksmith Wan again, wait until Xieling is out, I have to step down as the suzerain, and let Chong Meyer be the suzerain for a few more days, and then he will take the top spot. If it is handed over to senior brother Dong or Su Xiaoqiao to sit, it is also a story of the ages. A sect has changed 4 sect masters in less than 30 years. Who can compare this with our Longquan sword sect? An expressionless man came out of the door. Donggu and Su Xiaoqiao immediately stood up and called out to master. Lu Xianying smiled brightly and hurriedly asked Xinyue to add a pair of tableware, while he stood up to move a place for the master and his old man. Feeling that he was still not respecting the teacher, he strode out the door, rubbing his hands and saying, Master, what's the matter? I don't even say hello to my disciples when I've finished ironing. Look, the taste of these dishes on the table is too spicy. They only take care of senior brother Dong and senior sister Su, and they are all seafood. Is master used to eating it? If you can't eat it, I'm used to it, I'm going to cook 2 good appetizers. Wan Qiong didn't say a word, he sat on the seat and Shuya brought the bowls and chopsticks and put them gently beside him. Wan Qiong nodded in greeting and his face finally improved a little. Su Xiaoqiao also went to get a jar of wine and a few white bowls and poured a bowl for everyone. Wan Qiong picked up the wine bowl and took a sip, picked up chopsticks, habitually poked the table lightly and then began to pick dishes. Only then did Donggu and Su Xiaoqiao dare to take a sip of wine with the bowl, and then went to pick up the chopsticks. On the other hand, Lu Xianying had already started serving master's dishes, and soon Wan Qiong's bowl of rice was full of dishes. Wan Qiong said, the court wants me to go to the capital and then accompany His Majesty the Emperor, who is a private visit to Hongzhou Yuzhong County. Lu Xianying said with a smile, since His Majesty is visiting privately in a small number of clothes, and it's not the kind of high-profile tour, why do you have to work so hard? If you don't want to go to the capital, you will pull it down. If you want to go out to relax, you can go directly to Yuzhong County. If you do this, it will be a bit of a disgrace to your majesty and the court, so I will go instead. Wan Qiong shook his head and said, the letter is more direct, it must be me. Lu Xianying frowned and said, in addition to the production of large trees in Yuzhong County, the imperial court has repeatedly banned the private cutting of trees, and this is why a new logging institute has been set up. Besides, the only thing that can be done is the ancestral home of the current Queen Mother. A trip? Wan Qiong said. The first director of the logging institute is Lin Jingqing, who has just been transferred from the Beijing News. Lu Xianying asked, is it Lin Shiyi's father? Wan Qiong nodded. Lu Xianying took a sip of wine and said, then let's go. Wan Qiong said, I just informed you that there is such a thing and I didn't discuss it with you. Lu Xianying became annoyed and said, Taismith Wan, ask yourself, I, the suzerain, should not be aggrieved. Wan Qiong didn't pay any attention to Lu Xianying at all, just turned his head to look at Xueyue and asked, Miss Yu, when will you become a Taoist partner with Lu Xianying? Xueyue has always been someone who doesn't treat herself badly at the dinner table, but now her mouth is full of food, her cheeks are bulging, and she suddenly raised her head with a blank expression on her face. Wan Qiong finished drinking a bowl of wine, put it down gently and said, Lu Xianying usually speaks out of tune. He is honest and he is a man who knows how to live. You won't mess around in matters of men and women. I didn't say these words when I was his master, Miss Yu. If you think Lu Xianying is worth entrusting, don't delay your marriage. Xin Yu's face flushed red in an instant. Lu Xianying was not much better, his ears and neck were blushing. Donggu and Su Xiaoqiao were also full of smiles. Wan Qiong increased his tone a little, but just repeated the same meaning of the last sentence. Don't delay. He who is Lu Xianying's master is very supportive of this marriage and will definitely not stop him. Afterwards, Wan Qiong did not continue pouring wine, but just got up and left after eating the bowl of rice. Probably this time when he left the sword-casting house, the man Lu Xianying called a blacksmith wanted to say such a thing. Su Xiaoqiao accompanied Su Xiaoqiao to clean up the dishes, but Donggu said that he would drink more with Lu Xianying. Clouds fill the valley, the moon shines in the sky, and the clear water in the mountains flows, but the swimming fish stops as steady. Lu Xianying was drunk, but senior brother Dong was sturdy. From the beginning he was still pretending to be a senior brother there, persuading Lu Xianying, who is a junior brother, to get along with Miss Yu and don't let her down. Or don't talk about master, he was the first to forgive Lu Xianying, so what if he became the suzerain? He didn't recognize the big brother. After drinking, Donggu started talking nonsense, saying that he couldn't be sorry for the master. Should not be the master's eldest disciple, causing the master and the sect to be gossiped behind their backs. By the end, Donggu had more tears than he drank, so Lu Xianying had to sit next to the senior brother. He patiently listened to Donggu saying these over and over again, and then stopped the senior brother who was looking for a drink. Su Xiaoqiao and Xingyue didn't go to the house. They stayed in the yard all the time, listening to the drunken talk of the two at the wine table. They turned a blind eye to each other. In the end, Lu Xianying carried Donggu back to Henglang Peak and then swayed Yufeng back to his own Yui Peak. Lu Xianying squatted by the cliff alone, drinking to hangover. Xingyue came to him and sat beside him. As for the marriage, Xingyue was actually not that embarrassed. She was just a little caught off guard at the beginning and then twisted. It wasn't that she didn't like Lu Xianying. Here Yui Peak, although it is the top of the old Beiyue Mountain, is next to the ancestral mountain that was moved from Chuzhou, so you can vaguely hear the sound of Wan Qiong striking the iron and casting the sword from the Xianxia mountain. The whole room is bright as day, looking at Zishan from the side of Yui Peak, flickering and flickering, like a lantern hanging in the wind on Xianxia mountain to guide the way for wanderers to return home. On the Henglang Peak, Donggu quickly woke up, rubbed his temples and noticed the familiar aura outside the house. The nascent soul, who was dressed in black all the year round and looked like a youth, immediately got up, opened the door and shouted, Soundbridge. Henglang Peak is the treasure house of the sect and the secret house where treasures are collected. After Donggu entered the nascent soul realm, because he was born in the mountain and wild, his cultivation was more comfortable. In addition, Su Xiaoqiao was not good at and did not like business affairs. Gu reluctantly set up a sect accountant. In fact, Longquan Jianzong spent very little but received a lot of money. Donggu only needed to record those treasures and immortal money in the book. It was not complicated. Su Xiaoqiao nodded with a smile, shook a bunch of keys in his hand and explained, If I can't sleep, I'll come to your treasure house to enjoy my eyes. Sitting on the steps, Donggu was still a little dizzy. He was no stranger to the habits of junior sisters. Otherwise he would not. The treasure house of Longquan Sword Sect has a lot of rare objects, which can be worthy of the saying of a dazzling array of things. Stepping into it, such as entering Baoshan, Su Xiaoqiao will go there from time to time to tour. Like Lu Xianyang's sword refining Xialing's breakthrough all the way, he didn't use the wealth of the treasury, and because the master was the chief worshipper of the dynasty, the generous salary that the Dali court sent regularly, and the Song family used various the spiritual tools, magic weapons, and Donggu were secretly divided into various names that were kept in the dark. Every year there were 5 or 6 sums of immortal money. Whenever Donggu asked about the origin, the court and households on the other side of the ministry, they only assumed that they were acting according to the rules, and they refused to say any more. Donggu was unable to find the relevant deeds in black and white in the archives. Donggu had asked the master several times if he wanted to know if it was an oral contract between the master and Dali Song, but the master said that he could not remember it, just accept it. That is. Later Donggu got used to it and it felt like he was lying down and collecting money. Therefore their own sects are typical of many people and few people, and there is no place to spend them. Su Xiaoqiao said, "You Perlin over Xingyang Mountain at the beginning of this year, sent a letter to master in private?" Donggu nodded. "The main thing is to apologize to the master, saying that he missed an opportunity because he was young and ignorant, and regretted not being able to become master's direct disciple. I hope I can come to the door to make amends in the future. The opportunity to pay New Year's greetings in the first month of the Perlin. At the time I didn't quite understand why master drove them down the mountain. Now it seems that master is right. Although he has good skills in swordsmanship, he has bad conduct. He likes to take chances and stay in Longquan. Sword sect is not a good thing. Jindan Kaifeng is equivalent to establishing a portal in the mountains. It will only be a bad thing." Su Xiaoqiao sighed. "It's a pity, Lu Yu." Donggu rubbed his face. "It's the most unreasonable thing to talk about love between men and women. It's just such a reason. Donggu doesn't want to experience it in person, just talk about others. When the bitter wine is still sweet, the bitterness is like a bottomless pit that endless mountains and seas can't fill." On the other side of Xingyang Mountain are Eugene, the master of Yujiao Peak, Jianxiu of Jindanjing, Lu Yu, the direct disciple of Ling Qi, the master of Cheongji Peak, Jianxiu of Longmenjing, and the flying sword, Dihua. These 2 genius sword cultivators who are expected to become Taoist companions were both temporarily anonymous disciples who had been practicing in the Longquan sword sect for several years. In those days, Wan Qiong saved a lot of face for Eugene and asked them to go down the mountain by themselves and switch to another door. Yu Perlin ran to Xingyang Mountain, where the sword fairy is like a cloud. Among them Lu Yu, who could have stayed in Xianxia Mountain, fell in love with Yu Perlin because of her love. Su Xiaoqiao couldn't keep her, so the girl still followed down the mountain. Qiling Tao Yanba was accepted as the heir, and one of them was attracted by Ling Qi. The last time Lu Xianyang made a big noise at the sect ceremony of Xingyang Mountain, Yuqin and Lu Yu both appeared to ask about the sword. Lu Xianyang was very polite to Lu Yu, but very rude to Yuqin, which caused the latter to be a joke on the mountain now. There is a saying that, as soon as you ask about the sword you will fall to the ground and pretend to be dead. But the joke is a joke, and the 30-year-old Lord of the Peak and the Golden Elixir Sword Immortal are also true. Su Xiaoqiao said without reason, "Thanks to Lu Xianyang on the mountain." Donggu nodded. "If it wasn't for Sect Master Lu, maybe Master wouldn't be able to say a few words to us all year round." In Lu Xianyang's words, there is an old man in the family who has a treasure. Donggu, you guys don't think that the Master is not the suzerain, so you don't respect his old man? Although the Master is a white man now, after all, the age is there. If it weren't for the living treasure of Lu Xianyang, Longquan Sword Sect would be a very boring mountain. Su Xiaoqiao said, "If it were you and me to be the suzerain, junior brother Xia would definitely not argue with us." He was not convinced, but Lu Xianyang was really the only one who could hold Xia Ling down in every way. Previously, the Qin family in Nampo Suzhou had an old mountain senior who was good at drawing dragons. Wan Qiong, Lu Xianyang and the others who came to the mountain to visit friends for many years accompanied them. The other party just called Sect Master Lu out of courtesy, and said something young after all. Lu Xianyang belonged to half of his own family. He used to study with the Chuanru Qin family for 10 years, but he was only an old man who moved the world with his exquisite dragon painting. He traveled abroad all year round and never saw Lu Xianyang. As a result, Lu Xianyang immediately followed the bar and said, How did Uncle Qin know that I was a jade pure realm sword immortal? And all of a sudden the well-informed old man couldn't fix it. On the cliff of Yui Peak, Lu Xianying asked softly, Miss Yu, do you know why Qin Pingon didn't go to the wild world? Xing Yu wondered, hasn't he already been to the wild hinterland? He has made such a big contribution and some people think that his title of hidden official is not worthy of the name. No matter how it was made, he killed a wild monster who was a sword cultivator in the Ascension Realm anyway. If you add the relatively imaginary Ascension Realm in Xianxia City, there are two. Lu Xianying smiled and shook his head. At least at the Confucian Temple no one thinks so for the time being. And what you said is different from what I asked. Then what's the answer? Lu Xianying smiled and said, I also want to know the answer, so I'll go back and ask. Shenjia's eyes lit up immediately. Is this going back to the sword shop on the Longshu River? Lu Xianying stood up and said excitedly on credit, Is this back? Lu Xianying smiled and said, Don't worry, I'll go see that young man who is determined to learn from senior sister Su, and see if it is suitable for him to go up the mountain to practice. If I meet her, I will grab an apprentice with Miss Su. Xing Yu waved his hand, Then I want go. Lu Xianying took a few steps back, waved his arms and jumped a few times. He rushed forward with a vigorous step, jumped off the cliff, and his figure drew an arc. Lu Xianying shouted and fell to the ground with a curling echo. When Lu Xianying was about to fall to the ground, it was only a few feet away from the valley, and suddenly a dazzling sword light appeared. The wind was galloping, the sword light was like a dragon and snake winding across the earth, and a series of laughter from Lu Xianying's servant could be heard. Because according to Lu Xianying, the villain in the book, the characters are all smiling, and according to Lu Xianying's wild ideas, the Longquan Jinzong family will have a big business in the future. When recruiting disciples, you must be careful about those second princes, illegitimate children of wealthy families, and inconspicuous people who carry deep blood feuds. It seems that the aptitude for cultivating the Tao is mediocre, and the humiliation in the teacher's door is unbearable. It is too exhausting for the teacher's door and the elders. Even if it is a spread of 1 or 2, it will be too much to eat. It is easy to be sacrificed to the sky. With tears in my eyes, the disciple finally got his revenge, and the master knows it under Xianxia. Credit you side, childish is really childish. In the deserted countryside, Lu Xianying knocked on the shack as the moonlight gradually filled the shabby doors and windows. The teenager in the room had a very light sleep and immediately said vigilantly, Who? Lu Xianying said with a stern look. The world's masters have wandered here, and seeing that the boy's roots are very strange, he is suitable for going up the mountain to cultivate Taoism. I plan to give you a gift. The yellow-faced and skinny youth opened the door, turned around with one hand and with the moonlight, saw a young man with thick eyebrows and big eyes standing outside the door and said, No need, I'm already the anonymous disciple of Su Xianzi of Cook Haifeng. Lu Xianying smiled. He really opened his mouth to come. This is a bit of a hit. Lu Xianying traveled far to study for many years, and later Longquan Jinzong was established. When he returned from Nampo Suzhou, he only stayed in the shop on the banks of the Longshu River, which was abandoned. He rarely went to Huaihuang County, let alone talk about it. The prefecture is now, and this young man was born and raised in the prefecture according to his age. Therefore, it is normal for the young man not to recognize the suzerain of the Longquan sword sect in front of him. As for why the teenager recognized Su Xiaoqiao, maybe it was because she opened a fairy inn in partnership with Dong Banqing in the state city. Senior sister Su herself is not good at managing business, but she is good at dealing with people who are good at making money. There is a lot of private money and the dowry is not thin. Lu Xianying strode into the house, took out an oil lamp from his sleeve, twisted his fingers, and the light was yellowish, illuminating the thatched cottage. The young man always faces this uninvited guest. Lu Xianying looked around and saw that he was really a family with air leaking from all sides. He looked familiar, turned his head and smiled and introduced himself. My name is Lu Xianying. I have never seen it before. I must have heard of the name. It is from the Longquan sword sect. The current suzerain, so Zhu Haifeng Su Xiaoqiao, is my senior sister. Peek pretending to be an umbrella. The tense young man finally let go of his guard and looked embarrassed, because the hand around him was holding a hatchet. This trip, the people who depended on each other for life were a package with some heavy clothes, and then there was this hatchet which was used for self-defense and road opening, had already been used up on the road. as for the first scraps of silver and copper coins that were exchanged from selling antiques at home. In fact, before going out this time, the young man had already left home secretly twice, but both of them came back without success. There was no table or stool in the house, so Lu Xianying sat beside the bed and asked with a smile, "Since there is a snake gallstone, why don't you sell it for money? No matter how much gambling debts your family owes, you should be able to repay it all at once. It is estimated that there is still a lot of surplus. You don't have to worry about finding a seller, not to mention Dong Shrijing's. The inn, even if you go directly to the state and county government office to ask for the price, will also accept it, guaranteeing you a fair price." Li Xinyuan looked sad. The skinny boy looked down at the pair of dilapidated straw sandals on his feet. "I'm too young to keep my money, so the snake gallstone that my grandfather secretly left to me, no matter who I exchange it with. Too much money can't be kept, and it will only be used by the elders in the family to be abused by gambling houses." Lu Xianying asked, "Have you ever attended a school or read a book?" Reporting to Sect Master Lu, "I passed the 2 examinations at the county government very early, and it is Tongxing." The young man raised his head, his yellow and thin face, and a bit of a smile appeared. "Last year I should have participated in the Abbot Zuzheng's abbot's examination, but there was no concubine who was willing to bail me out, and I failed to become a scholar." Lu Xianying nodded. Speaking of which, neither he nor Qin Pingon had a reputation, let alone a scholar. Now they are not even Tongxing. In the Confucian Academy, the 2 of them couldn't even get a wise man. In fact, Li Xinyuan did not tell the whole truth. In fact, the teenager just failed to participate in the second re-examination. Moreover, in the previous 2 county tests, the teenager was the case leader. As long as he continues to participate in the hospital examination, it is very likely that he will be able to take the top spot again. This is in the field of science, that is, a scholar can boast of a lifetime of 3 yuan. As for why the young man concealed the facts, it was for His Holiness Tebu's sake. The relatives in a family are often good or average, but when people's hearts are slack, there are 1,000 kinds of bad. There are unbelievable pickle thoughts and endless filthy methods. Li Xinyuan is only 14 years old now, and his family was still wealthy when he was born. Although it is a shell that is about to be hollowed out, the thin dead camel is bigger than a horse, and it is still much better than the average wealthy family. From frugality to extravagance is easy. Just take a few glances at how the rich people around you live a rich life. You can learn it, and from extravagance to frugality is difficult. That is the case in Li Xinyuan's family. Almost all elders who are used to big money, "I have been complaining every day for these years, or I just want to make a fortune, but where is it so easy to earn? I have been deceived many times by those connoisseurs in the prefecture city, and even cheated marriages." Li Xinyuan, one of his uncles, ended up with no personal wealth. Lu Xianying smiled and said, "You are right to choose to go out of the house. If you don't save yourself, if you don't cut yourself off with the family, this life will be over." The desperate young man smiled bitterly. His idea was very simple. He only hoped to become the registered disciple of Longquan Sword sect and then go back to clean up the mess. Otherwise, in the family he is a humble person and he is a junior, and all the reasons make no sense. Lu Xianying stood up. "It's all right, don't make a bitter face, just follow me up the mountain." Li Xinyuan said in surprise. "Zhou Xian is willing to accept me as a disciple." Now that he had the intention of robbing the apprentice, Lu Xianying began to play tricks and put eye drops on senior sister Su. "She thinks that your kid's qualifications are too poor. The key is not to be a sword cultivator, but she is a sword immortal of Yifeng. Jianxiu, I talked badly on the mountain and then I persuaded her, the head of the sect, to allow you to go up the mountain to practice, so instead of cooking Haifeng it was Yi Peak. First I gave a high-ranking, handsome and unparalleled talent to be a big man. Whether an anonymous disciple can enter the hall and become a personal heir of this person depends on your future destiny." Li Xinyuan was a little disappointed, but after all, it wasn't the worst outcome, so there was no need to make a vain trip and go home. The young man followed Lu Xianying out of the house and asked curiously, "Sect Master Lu, can you take the liberty to ask, where is Yui Peak? The dojo of a sword immortal?" The reason why Li Xinyuan insisted on apprenticing with Su Xiaoqiao to learn art is because the young man once met this kind-looking immortal teacher on the streets of Zhoucheng and thought she was a good person. Lu Xianying handed the oil lamp in his hand to the young man beside him, smiled and said, "It's far in the sky and it's right in front of you." Holding the oil lamp, Li Xinyuan stopped, stunned and speechless, but did not forget to stretch his arms to protect the lamp. Lu Xianying said sternly, "I will take you on foot all the way to Yui Peak. There is a strong wind in the mountain. If the lights go out, it means that you and I do not have the fate of master and apprentice." The boy's face tightened in an instant, sweat oozing from his forehead. He immediately unbuttoned his shirt and protected the lamp in his shirt to avoid the mountain wind. Afterwards, Li Xinyuan cautiously followed the sect master Lu to the Yui Peak along the mountain road. If there was a headwind, the boy would back off on the mountain road. It is indeed windy in the mountains. You can often see withered pines lying in the ravines. The wind and waves are like pounding. In addition, Yui Peak is not as smooth as Zhou Xian Mountain. The path is particularly winding and rugged. Lu Xianying should walk leisurely. Pitiful a young man can walk, plus some water crossing roads or narrow stone beams covered with moss, or a dead pine as a single plank bridge. Li Xinyuan walks on it like walking on thin ice. Seeking the way, I came to Longquan Jianzong on foot all the way. I am used to trekking mountains and waters. Otherwise, let alone protect the lights from being blown out by the mountain wind while walking, I am afraid that just climbing alone will be exhausted. Lu Xianying stopped halfway up the mountain, letting the already dizzy young man rest for a while, so that he could recuperate and continue climbing. Before that, Lu Xianying's footsteps were fast and slow, occasionally reminding the young man behind him to pay attention to the rhythm of his breathing. At this moment Lu Xianying smiled and said, "Don't be so nervous, you have already walked most of the way." Li Xinyuan's lips were chapped and he was not in a relaxed mood. After Lu Xianying put his hands together, he smiled and said, "There are endless things in the world, but there are limited cups on the table. There is a new year every year and the flowers will be better next year." Seeing that the boy did not support him, Lu Xianying had to ask, "What do you think?" Sect Master Liu's impromptu recitation of this poem has a very good meaning. It has the taste of the master's own way, that is. It doesn't rhyme, it does not conform to the rhythm of poetry, and it is suspected of being inclusive. The evaluation is so good, don't evaluate it in the future. After that, the two continued to climb the mountain. When they approached the top of the mountain, Li Xinyuan suddenly slipped and fell to the ground. The oil lamp rolled to the ground and the light went out. The young man sat blankly on the ground, not knowing whether it was because he was extremely tired, or because he was caught off guard. He couldn't care about being sad for a while. Lu Xianying squatted aside and said with a smile, "It turns out that you really have no fate with this peak." Li Xinyuan's fall and miss, of course, was deliberately done by Lu Xianying. While this peak is called Boiled Haifeng, Yui Peak is in another place. Li Xinyuan picked up the oil lamp silently, wiped it carefully with his sleeve, and handed it back to Sect Master Lu. As soon as he handed over the oil lamp, the boy burst into tears in an instant. This journey has been hard climbing, and the young man guarded the light as if he was carrying a wisp of hope. Once the light went out, the hope of the young man was completely gone, but it was different from the previous visit to Longquan Jianzong, who was rejected. The young man still refused to accept his fate. He was unwilling, and he was always unwilling to leave here. When he climbed the mountain tonight, he fell the oil lamp, and the young man seemed to finally accept his fate, and there was no more unwillingness. At the top of the mountain, Xianxia, who had been silently observing the young man, couldn't help but said to Lu Xianying in his heart, "Sect Master Lu, this direct disciple, I accept it." It is rare to call Lu Xianying Sect Master Lu. She must be very serious. Lu Xianying turned a deaf ear, exchanged the lamp to Li Xinyuan again, patted the young man on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Li Xinyuan, before you formally seek the Tao, you must first understand a principle. When all the celestial beings in the world run out of oil, only the lamp will die. A lamp with a heart is always bright, and it is the most immortal. Just a single lamp can illuminate the ages. What is cultivation of the Tao? This is cultivation. If you don't believe in this principle, then look back at the road." Li Xinyuan pointed along Lu Xianying's finger, and saw a ray of light between the mountain roads, either straight or round, gradually rising to his side. At the same time, the oil lamp in the boy's hand suddenly lit up again. Lu Xianying smiled and said, "Now I'll give you a choice. Should I worship Su Xiaoqiao as a teacher, or go to Yui Peak with me to learn Taoism?" The boy's answer made Lu Xianying smile knowingly, but it surprised Su Xiaoqiao. Li Xinyuan still decided to practice at Boil Haifeng. Lu Xianying smiled and said, "It's only a few steps away from the top of the mountain. Go by yourself. Senior Sister Su is waiting for you. When you see me later you have to call Master, not the sect master, but don't regret it. By the way, this lamp, the oil lamp, is an antiquity, and its rank is not low, so it should be regarded as a gift for my suzerain." Turning into a sword light, Lu Xianying returned to Yui Peak, and Su Xiaoqiao asked on credit, "Why did you give up your disciple to Su Xiaoqiao?" Lu Xianying laughed and said, "Actually, I regretted it halfway through. Accepting an apprentice is like having multiple oil bottles on the back of the buttocks, hard work and hard work. Besides, instead of being called master, it is better to be a suzerain and uncle. Relaxed and comfortable." Seeing that he didn't want to tell the truth, she didn't care what the truth was. Lu Xianying said sternly, "I'm going to retreat." Xingyu said, "Can we have dinner together tomorrow morning?" Lu Xianying smiled and said, "I will try my best to have breakfast together tomorrow next year." Xingyu said strangely, "It's just dozing off. How long does it take?" Lu Xianying nodded and said, "This time is really different. I met a strange person in a dream before and I couldn't see the face of the other person. If I guessed correctly, he is very likely to be one of the 10 heroes in the ancient world. An unknown sword repairer I met at an ancient battlefield site before, and he actually noticed my trace, but we didn't chat. The other party was probably shocked by my sword training aptitude. When he was cleaning up the battlefield, he lost a look at me. What kind of brain am I? And I understood it at the time." To put it lightly, in fact, Lu Xianying's hair was standing on end at that time, and the other party just gave him a sharp look, and Lu Xianying was about to be directly beaten out of his dream. She asked, "What do you understand?" Lu Xianying said, "This senior begged me to learn swords from him." Xingyue hesitated for a moment and reminded, "That guy seems to have been famous in the ancient times with a high personality, a bad temper, and not close to anyone. You take it easy." Lu Xianying smiled and said, "When I was in Lizhu Cave, I was the only one in terms of the relationship between elders. Credit you was suspicious. Can you be better than Chen Yingguan?" Lu Xianying became unhappy when he heard it, raised his feet, took a golden rooster independent posture, reached out and patted his knees. "If it compares to this, Qin Ping's ability will only come to me." Xingyue liked to listen to these, smiled and nodded. Lu Xianying squatted down and planned to chat with Miss Yu a few more leisurely days before retreating. When he entered the fairyland, he and Miss Yu were a veritable pair of gods. In fact, when Xie Ling retreated, he became a jade pure realm. Longquan Jinzong has 3 sword immortals at the same time. Besides, isn't there still Miss Yu, one of the 10 young people in the world? In the past, Qin Pingon was on the top of this list, and the 11th was the bottom one. Seeing that he was not in a hurry to retreat, Xingyue continued to sit aside and asked, "Master Wan doesn't seem to have any idea about his own breakthrough?" Especially after Lu Xianying entered the 5 realms and took over as the suzerain, Wan Qiong was even less concerned. Lu Xianying laughed hard. "Blacksmith Wan's qualifications are not as good as mine, and the Jade Pure Realm has reached its peak. Besides, Blacksmith Wan prefers to cast swords, and is not very interested in the practice itself." Su Xiaoqiao said in a low voice, "I heard from Su Xiaoqiao that Master Wan resigned as the chief worshipper twice, but the emperor did not agree." Chao Rong, a Taoist angel from the old Dashuang dynasty. Pu Ji, a white-bone swordsman from Beiju Luzhou Bone Beach. In addition, Lu Boqi, who claimed to be the female crown of the inverted mountain master's knife room. These are all candidates for worship that the Li Song clan tried to win over but could not get it. When the war ended, they all left gracefully and traveled to other continents. Thinking of this, Lu Xianying pouted, and the Dali court did not have plans to enrich the power of worship and deepen the heritage of the mountain. If it weren't for these strange people who had a closer relationship with Song Jisun, the little slut, the Emperor Song, he would definitely spend more money. A lot of thought to keep. In fact, Lu Xianying and Song Jisun have been at odds with each other for a long time. One dislikes the other's lack of strength, and the other dislikes the other's poverty and vulgarity. Lu Xianying said, "Don't worry, Song, he is very good at life. At least when he is the emperor, he will never agree to the resignation of Blacksmith Wan as the chief worshipper." Xingyue sighed. "There is no such twists and turns in the wilderness." Lu Xianying said, "When I get out of the customs, I plan to go to Hongzhou, but I always feel weird there." Xingyue nodded and said, Don't you all say that there is the place where the 12 sword immortals of the ancient times emerged? You are a sword cultivator. If you have a feeling, you are on the right track. And I heard that there are indeed some legends that have been passed down from generation to generation. The ancient custom has the meaning of entertaining the gods and leaving the old, the art of eternal life. According to what you have said in the world, the earliest method of sacrificing was in the shaman, then in the historian, and then in the scholar officer. Besides, since ancient times there have been mountains and giant trees. The place is often the place of worship. After hesitating for a while, the credit month still didn't bring someone in, otherwise Lu Xianying would bring the other party with him. If he really went to visit the secluded, explore the victor and seek treasure, he would definitely have a better grasp. With someone's behavior, he would accept it as soon as he saw it. Can make the sky 3 feet tall. Lu Xianying has a bright smile. As the old saying goes, marry a wife and marry a virtuous woman. Besides, Miss Yu is more than virtuous. Xingyue suddenly said, Lu Xianying, have you really thought about it? Lu Xianying was at a loss. What are you thinking about? Xingyu stared. Are you pretending to be stupid? After all, I can't hide my identity. It doesn't matter to her, but Lu Xianying is the head of the sect after all, just like Dong Gus eyes dizzy at the wine table because of that knot in his heart. Lu Xianying smiled. Is Miss Yu afraid that outsiders will gossip? What is there to worry about? Whoever makes me unhappy, I will make him unhappy. Who likes to gossip? I happen to be more idle. One counts as one and the other don't let it go. So you're just worried about me. It's even more unnecessary. Neither of us are worried about this. She said in a low voice. Do you not care at all? Lu Xianying grinned and said, I must have dealt with them one by one, so I don't care anymore. Credit you seems to be satisfied with this, and small dimples appear on Yuan's face. Lu Xianying, who was holding the back of his head with both hands, remembered something, took out a seal from his sleeve, held it in the palm of his hand and rubbed it lightly. On credit, she knew who gave the seal to Lu Xianying. Although Lu Xianying often talks about youth, she still doesn't quite understand how Lu Xianying and Qin Pingon have such a good relationship, and the latter is even willing to regard the former as her brother. Xingyue has always felt that a person as smart as a young hidden officer would not be willing to rely on others. Especially when he identified something, he would be extraordinarily resolute, and his mind could not be moved in the slightest. But on Lu Xianying's side, Qin Pingon seemed to be very persuasive. The thing that made her feel the most unreasonable was that Lu Xianying's heart was wider than the sky, but Qin Pingon had a deep mind. One was too lazy to think about anything. Even if the sky fell, he would not delay the matter at hand. One seemed to have a sesame on the side of the road. If you want to pick it up and figure out the origin, it is said that the friendship between friends can only last for a long time, but Lu and Qin have completely opposite personalities. Lu Xianying smiled and said, Do you think it's strange? However, Xingyue knew that Lu Xianying knew what she was thinking and nodded. Isn't it strange? Lu Xianying shook his head. It's not surprising because he's always been the least timid and doesn't grow up. Young Anning grows young. Qin Pingon can grow up young. Sort of Coming Chapter 996. Not far from the east gate of the town, there is a post station, which was established around the same time as Huaihuang County. Ya. Things are nicknamed, and the people of the small town not only like it but are good at it. Zheng Dafeng wandered all the way to Jiming Post today. The postman was born in the small town. In his early years, he was a subordinate of the Longyao Supervision and Construction Office. He just moved a nest. When they were young, Zheng Dafeng and Jing Dafeng were good brothers at the wine table and gambling table. Often Jing Dafeng bet big and he bet small, and they always won money. The two would go to Huang Erniang's shop to drink anyway. It's Jing Dafeng's credit. This guy has saved a lot of daughter-in-law's books. It is said that he has recently started to work for his unqualified grandson in an emergency shop. Today, seeing Jing Dafeng, who has disappeared for many years, is very warm and warm. One passes just a lot of small things for the postmaster. When the two reminisced about the old days, there were often postmen with briefcases who came here to spend money and survey together. Zheng Dafeng didn't want to disturb this old brother who was busy with official business. After drinking, before leaving, Zheng Dafeng asked abruptly, Are you not a senior brother? The postmaster was stunned for a long time and asked him what he said. Zheng Dafeng quickly said that it was all right, and pacing out of the inn he blamed Qin Pingon, and even he liked to be suspicious. Xing Dafeng went down the mountain this time. In addition to the post station, he went to the former tomb of the gods. Because today is the third day of the second lunar month, Xing Dafeng went to the Confucian temple, but did not go to the main hall to worship those sages who ate cold pork heads. He chose a side hall facing one of the statues, clasped his palms together and recited a few words. It is rare for a man to look so solemn. Xing Dafeng was too lazy to go back to his yellow mud house near the east gate of the town. He didn't even have a single female mosquito. He felt sad when he thought about it. The talisman that covered his figure, Yufeng, went to Nujiadu, and the talisman that shook his fingertips was named by Xing Dafeng as Wangzhen Persuasion Talisman, also known as Liangshang Gentleman Talisman. The man sighed sadly again only to feel this. This kind of precious talisman fell into his own hands. It is really overkill, not doing the right job, and the talent is inferior. Nujiada's baggage restaurant. Business is average. Xing Dafeng walked into a deserted shop after carrying both hands. The female cultivator of Zhuchai Island behind the counter heard footsteps, and when she looked up and saw the other party, she rolled her eyes and said, immediately bowed his head and read the book on his own. Xing Dafeng leaned against the counter and said with a smile, Sister Guanqing, I haven't seen you for a few years, you've grown up. In the last few words, the man was particularly careful with words. The woman named Guanqing raised her head and saw the guy, quickly shifted her gaze. She said angrily, a dog can't spit out something like ivory. Xing Dafeng sighed and said with a hilarious smile, why don't you say that dogs can't change their way of eating shit? Sure enough, it doesn't matter whether a girl is a lady or a lady, she doesn't know how to scold people. It's light and ticklish. Guanqing stared. Xing, I warn you, if you have something to say, get out of here. When she was looking at the shop here, she was really fed up with the so-called love words of this self-proclaimed romantic guy, whose mouth was full of scum and crooked. Even if she just thought about it, she would get goosebumps. Mr. Chin is such a serious person, how could he find such an unreliable guy to be the gatekeeper of Luopao Mountain? Xing Dafeng lightly beat his heart, coughed a few times and asked, Sister Liu Xiao and Sister Bai Kei, aren't they with you? As soon as I returned to my hometown, I immediately asked the mountain master whether you were thin or fat. The practice is not going well, and the mountain master said that you are all idle on the back of the clawfish. Guanqing picked up an abacus and smashed it. Xing Dafeng lowered his head and turned around, then stretched his legs, gently picked the abacus with his toes, grabbed it with his hand, put it on the table, spread out his palm and rolled the abacus beads. He smiled and said, Brother Dafeng's hand is so beautiful that it is not beautiful. Is it the same style or is it still better than the past? Guanqian took a deep breath and said, Xing Dafeng, if you are so rascal again, I will go to Luopao Mountain to sue Qin Shanju. If Qin Shanju makes a mess, he will be a peacemaker. Anyway, the business of the shop here, I will leave it alone. If you think about being disgusting, you have to go to the back of the clawfish and break through the mountain gate. Xing Dafeng wiped his face, but he didn't say any nonsense. He limped and left silently. Just when Guanqing felt a little guilty and felt that he was talking too much, the man suddenly leaned back and probed his brain. Sister Guanqing, are you really so heartless? Brother Dafeng shaved your beard for you today, so I changed it. When you have clean clothes, don't ask Brother Dafeng where have you gone for so many years, whether you have married a wife and have children outside. Guanqing remembered a unique trick that didn't go well after 100 trials. He learned from his junior sister Bai Kei, put his fingers together, waved vigorously and said solemnly, disappear. Xing Dafeng immediately stretched out his hand and grabbed it as if he had put something in his arms, and then he left with satisfaction. Xing Dafeng had visited all the shops where the female cultivator of Zhuchai Island was the temporary shopkeeper, and like the girl Guanqing had flirted with him. The refreshed man came to a shop with a plaque of Yangnian's high, and straightened his clothes. When he came to the door today, he must not retreat again. Nujiashan Ferry only rented a few bungalows to outsiders. Among them, Changchun Palace needed 2 shops and the rent was negligible. The shopkeeper is a female cultivator with the appearance of a middle-aged woman. She is neither ugly nor good-looking. She was just looking through a never-tired lawn poo. She is no stranger to Xing Dafeng. When she saw a man who hadn't shown up for many years, she immediately deliberately lay on the counter and smiled sweetly. Yo, isn't this Brother Dafeng, and he's walking the bird again? Come on, hurry up and take that one. The little sparrow is out of the cage playing tricks on my sister. What are you doing, taking advantage of no outsiders in the shop? What is there to be embarrassed about, wandering outside for so many years, still so thin-skinned? Look at your prosperous. Jing Dafeng snorted, really couldn't stand it, so he had to look shyly. Daoist Lianji, how can you treat guests like this? It's easy to scare away guests. The woman with the name of the curtain wall picked up a citrus from a fruit bowl at the counter, smashed it towards the man's crotch and sneered, what about the prestige of the shop nearby? Jing Dafeng hurriedly bent over to catch the hidden weapon and said angrily, I'm not so handsome and I don't take advantage of my appearance, so I have to work love words. Lianji is here to take care of the business, which is purely a kind of distraction. She and the current palace master of Changchun Palace are of the same generation and in the same vein, but they are high in seniority and young, but they are the kind of younger may not be better when you are young. The close disciple, because she couldn't break the bottleneck of the Longmen realm, she was disheartened, so she took the initiative to come here to see the shop. Jing Dafeng used to come to the shop to chat, and it happened that both of them could chat and they were meat and vegetarian. No, so I haven't seen Jing Dafeng for so many years and Lianji really misses it a little bit. Of course, it has absolutely nothing to do with that kind of love between men and women. Jing Dafeng put his elbows on the counter, leaned over, stretched out his hands and stroked his hair, and boasted about how familiar he was with Zhu O, who wrote Lan Pu. With a few words, he lives quietly in the mountains and he is the master of Lincoln's haze. One day is like 2 days. If he lives for 90 years, it is 180 and his income is endless. There are 3 joys in living alone. You can live your life, eat spring bamboo shoots, summer clothes and read banned books on snowy nights. Lianji likes the gentleness of this ugly man, and to be honest, if it wasn't for Jing Dafeng's shabby appearance, he really wouldn't have been a bachelor until today. Changchun Palace and Luopao Mountain had a good relationship, thanks to the Yumi, who pretended to be a guest of Piyun Mountain and a monk of Guanheijing. In the name of helping to protect the Tao, Yumi traveled to the south together with several female cultivators from Song Yulin's lineage. Because there was a Dali patrolling envoy who urgently needed the branches and trees of Wanyin pine to be used as medicine, he asked the cultivator of Changchun Palace help to ask for something from Fengxue Temple, but the ancient pine tree named Chongqing grew up on Xianxia of Fengxue Temple. As the only seedling of Xianxia, the great sword immortal Wei Jin became the only one with power, the owner of broken branches. Therefore, even if they knew that Changchun Palace had a special position on the mountain of Dali, and that the ancestor of the Qin clan in Dazagu had a close relationship with Song Yu, the grand elder of Changchun Palace, the group of female cultivators still hit a wall unexpectedly and returned without success. When returning to Nujiadu, Yumi secretly gave Han Biya a piece of Wanyan pine. After the Changchun Palace inspection, it turned out that it was really from Gusong's long love. No doubt, the uneasy old woman in Longmenjing, she was in the teacher's door. There was an explanation from the Zhu Shirtang, and the Changchun Palace also gave a satisfactory explanation from the patrolling envoy. In addition, on the Lichuan ferry in Changchun Palace, because Zhu Fengxian, who left Beijing with the master Yu Hong, was also on the boat at the time, Qin Pingon once took Xiao Mo to the ferry, and during that time he saw the Taoist named Wusong, the ferry steward named Gon Yi. In Aquarius Island, only this Lichuan ferry, no matter where it is docked at any ferry, does not need to pay $50, and at that time only Lichuan ferry was the only ferry that could be taken over by the Dali military during the war. Come and go freely. A female cultivator from a foreign country that Jing Dafeng had never met came to the shop. She saw the man with spittle inside and she might have heard the introduction from Lianji, so she took the initiative to say, I have seen Mr. Jing, my name is Gon Yi, I come from Changchun Palace. Jing Dafeng immediately nodded and said, Aunt Gon, very good, you can call me Dafeng or Xiao Zheng. Gon Yi heard the man's misunderstanding, and could only explain with a smile, Sweet Gon, relaxed and happy Yi. Jing Dafeng said aggrievedly, Otherwise? How could I not recognize the famous Lichuan ferry boat manager Gon? The aura of a person is one spirit with 2 eyes. This Jindan female cultivator deserves the praise of bright eyes and kindness. Especially when Sister Gon Yi is smiling, she has 2 wine glasses. Beautiful. Gon Yi smiled and dismissed it. There were a lot of rogues up and down the mountain, and there was no shortage of such a number 1 person in front of him. Jing Dafeng was about to say goodbye and leave. After chatting with Sister Lianji for a long time, he was thirsty and planned to go to his brother's Beiyue mountain mansion for a drink. People who are not familiar with historical allusions, even today's court historians, may not know what that Lichuan fairy means to the Dali Song family. When the Dali Song clan was still a vassal state of the Lu clan, whenever there was a drought, it was necessary to borrow this magic fairy from Changchun Palace, and then invite the fairy master of Changchun Palace to cast spells to invite rain. It can be said that in the most difficult years of the Dali Song clan, every time this fairy appeared over the cracked earth, it was a kind of hope. Therefore, the chronology of Changchun Palace in the last 100 years can be said to be full of smoke and clouds, yellow and purple. Because in addition to the 3 generations of emperors of the Song dynasty, Dali often visited Changchun Palace. Today, the Queen Mother Nanpin of Dali lived in seclusion and cultivated here. The key is that the national teacher Cui Yu has personally participated in the 2 Changchun Palace maids. Cultivating the inaugural ceremony of becoming a Jindan Earth Immortal is something that is simply unimaginable today. Let that embroidered tiger participate in a certain sect's celebration? Don't say it's a new sect even if it's Xingao sect. Can Yunlin Jiang's please move? At the Xingyang Mountain viewing ceremony, the imperial court only dispatched Chao Ping, a hunting envoy. The earlier Longquan Jinzong was established, and Lu Xianying took over as the suzerain, all of which were the ministers of the ritual department. Gan Yi heard the voice of the shopkeeper Lianji again, hesitated for a while and said to Jing Dafeng with her heart, "Mr. Jing, there is something to discuss." Jing Dafeng immediately stopped and turned around, rubbing his hands and smiling, "I haven't married yet." Gan Yi pretended not to hear it and said to herself, "I am willing to resell Tiaoyu Mountain to Luopa Mountain. I wonder if Mr. Jing can pass the word on his behalf and help me and Qin Shanju know?" Jing Dafeng smiled and nodded and said, "It's easy to say, I'll bring it with you." The neighbors of Luopao Mountain, in addition to the Huimeng Mountain in the north, which is the top of their own vassal, there are 3 more: Tiandu Peak, Tiaoyu Mountain and Fiolu, each of which has its own affiliation. It's just that it is different from Yidai Peak, which is relatively inconspicuous. The monks living in the mountain are all secluded and rarely show up. Especially in Tiandu Peak, the monks seem to be grounded and closed and almost no one goes down the mountain. Moreover, regarding the identities of the 3 mountain masters, although there are secret records on the Dali dynasty, they have never leaked it to the outside world, and Luopa Mountain has no intention to explore the matter. Every time Yufeng travels to and from Luopao Mountain and the town, he will take the initiative to open a distance and walk around the mountain. I never thought that the Jumping Fish Mountain was actually the private property of Gan Yi. Lianji was greatly surprised that Jing Dafeng left the shop just like that. Walking on the street, Jing Dafeng frowned slightly, because Gan Yi carried a familiar ancient atmosphere. Jing Dafeng, who has filled up his soul, although he has not recovered some memories, but he seems to have added several magical powers out of thin air, and every time he sees, whether it is a person, an object or a scene, it is like a door suddenly opened in his hand. The appearance of Gan Yi made Jing Dafeng remember a blessed land with a long history for no reason, and it has disappeared in the Howren world for a long time. That's right. At the beginning, Miyu was entrusted by Wei Bo to secretly protect a group of people who went out for the Changchun Palace. There was a little girl named Zhongnan in the team. She was very young and of high seniority. The other 3 girls in the Dragon Gate realm are also first-class cultivators from Changchun Palace, and they are all going down the mountain for the first time to experience. Not necessarily enough, how could it be just a Dragon Gate realm as the backbone? At the same time, the most important thing about the experience of the Changchun Palace nuns is to negotiate with Fengxue Temple for a piece of 10,000-year pine, so as to give a satisfactory answer to a Dali patrol envoy. Not to mention the Supreme Elder Song. If he went out in person, he should also send the palace master to show his face, which is in line with the etiquette on the mountain. So Jing Dafeng immediately went to the library department of the Beiyue Mountain Monarch's mansion to consult the archives. Sure enough, he found a clue for Jing Dafeng. For a period of time, all the Earth Immortal monks in Changchun Palace disappeared, or they used the reason for the retreat, or to declare to the outside world that he has gone out for a long trip. As for why Jing Dafeng is so concerned, of course because the other party is the Changchun Palace of female cultivators like clouds. After the 2 worlds, Howren and Wilderness, bordered on each other, visions abounded. In addition to the night ship at sea, There were also many broken and secret realms of ancient caves and blessings on the Aquarius Island. The Qiufeng Temple in Pingzhou cannot be obtained by the cultivator's realm alone. It can only rely on the lower 5 realms of Qi practitioners to enter it, and each obtains various treasures by virtue of their blessings. Although there are already some lucky ones, they have obtained some Xianxia opportunities. According to the definition on the mountain, this treasure land of unknown origin is still in a state of no owner waiting for it. The 3 sect places that had been reserved by the Dali dynasty for a long time, after Luopa Mountain and Xingyang Mountain, Beipingzu added 2 new sect-headed immortal mansions, a large temple on the bank of Longqiu in Yendang Mountain, and then another, the Taoist temple of Xianjunqiao Rong. Next, it is estimated that it is the Huangshan Sword sect who temporarily descended the mountain as Xingyang Mountain instead of the next sect. Of course, it wasn't that the Dali court favored Xingyang Mountain, but Aquarius needed a new Kendo sect, and this new sect had to be located in the old Zhuing dynasty. In fact, Xingyang Mountain himself has already died of this heart, but he does not know about the next sect. It belongs to the village of Luyin Hua Mingyu. There are so many things in the world. When you think you are the closest, you are getting farther and farther. When you think you are far away, you can get it easily and effortlessly. In addition, Changchun Palace, Lialongking, a sect based on Qingtan Blessed Land, Yunxia Mountain, etc., which are candidates for the Aquarius sect, are all on the recommendation list of the Dali dynasty. There are happy events every year, especially this year. Today is the best example. Zheng Dafeng saw a kind-hearted old man on the street, accompanied by a young female cultivator who looked like a maid. The 2 who looked like masters and servants were strolling around Nujiadu Baozhai. It's just that Zheng Dafeng wanted to go to Piyun Mountain immediately. He was anxious to see Wei Bo, so he didn't go up to chat up. Serious people would approach a good-looking woman on the road casually. Zheng Dafeng stopped abruptly. Hey, this girl is actually a sword cultivator? Serious people don't do serious things, it's not like a frivolous young man, so Zheng Dafeng immediately followed into the shop of his own, familiar with the door and the road, and began to introduce the various goods inside, only after chatting to find out that the old man's surname was Hong and he came from Baoping. A place in the middle of the continent, Longshan Xinjia Ferry, is located at the border between Shushui and Songxi. A maid in a colorful dress, she claims to be affectionate. When they heard that the man was the uncle of Lord Qin Shanzhu of Luopao Mountain, they immediately looked at him with admiration. Guanqing hesitated a few times. Chao Mao, the general of Yuzhou, took a trip to Yuzhang County in Hangzhou in his spare time. As a general of one state, he actually managed the military affairs of 2 states at the same time, so it could also be regarded as an official business. Drilling pot umbrella, chain, teaching, chanting on this trip, the high-ranking Chao Mao did not greet officials at all levels in Hangzhou, but only brought a few confidants and cultivators to visit the logging institute. But the chief officer was not in the office, nor did he tell his subordinates where he went. Chao Mao did not intend to stay and wait for others, so he left the logging institute and asked 2 cultivators to go to the city to inquire about the news. A young general next to him couldn't help but ask, "General Chao, what is the origin of this Lin Jingqing so he can keep quiet? So secretly settled the case of stealing in Yuzhang County?" Chao Mao said, "If you can resist leaving Yuzhang County without asking, then you can go to serve in the military department of the capital." The young general said with a sad face, "General Chao, aren't you a jerk? You said that you would recommend it to me in the court, but why did you regret it? The official is not big, but he is a military officer who accompanies the capital. According to the regulations of Dali, there are military generals with the title of military merit and martial arts leave the battlefield to become local officials, and most of them are appointed by 1 or 2 ranks. How many ranks have I been demoted? Besides, it is only a companion capital, not a military department in the capital." On the side of this general of Yuzhou, in fact, there is no need to pay too much attention to official rules, and he speaks very casually. Chao Mao said indifferently, "Our Dallas 6 accompany capitals can be the same as the accompany capitals used by other countries for the elderly?" A female cultivator who stayed by his side smiled and said, "General Chao, I heard that the newly appointed chief of the Logging Institute is a stern and unsmiling man. Is he considered to be the kind of person with an iron face and a crown?" Chao Mao said, "About Lin Jingqing, don't ask any more questions. When I meet him later, don't interrupt when I chat with him." Because the Yuzhou general's house had previously received a secret decree from the imperial court, His Majesty the Emperor would make a secret tour to Hangzhou in the near future, where he would be stationed in the logging courtyard, and he would not bring too many followers. That's why Cao Mao had this trip to Yuzhong County. He had to meet Lin Jingqing first, and then he went to inspect several passes and military towns on the Hangzhou border. This logging institute in Hangzhou is similar to the weaving bureau set up by the Dali court in Yuzhou and Wuzhou. They are all edge institutions of the officialdom similar in nature to the Longyao Supervision and Construction Bureau of the past. It's just that the rank of the chief official of the logging institute is relatively the lowest. For example, Li Baozhen and Li Zhizao of Nuzhu are from the fourth rank with a fairly high official status. After all, the logging institute is a bit special. It does not belong to the permanent yamen. A transitional yamen. When things are done, the imperial court will be abolished without incident. Therefore, the officials who were assigned to work here are not very interested. First, there is no oil and water in the logging institute. It is also easy to cause a body of shame. After all, the court and Hangzhou have repeatedly banned the illegal mining of giant trees. The behind-the-scenes forces who do not have the support of the court say that the local Yuzhong County Nansher has such a large expenditure all year round. Will he not be involved in this vile business? In the officialdom of Dali, why is there a humorous saying of "De Yuzhong Xiao Hangzhou"? It's not just because the Nan clan of Yuzhong County has such a noble person, the former Queen Mother and now the Queen Mother Nan Pin. She is the biological mother of today's Zi Song He and Luo Wang Song Mu. To say that a mother is more valuable than a child, who can compare with her in the entire Aquarius? When the Logging Institute was just established, the entire Hangzhou officials were waiting to see the show, wanting to see how Lin Jingqing, who came from the capital to swim in the muddy waters, had a bad face in Yuzhong County. However, after Lin Jingqing took office as the chief officer, he neither visited any Yuzhong County officials nor royal relatives, nor did any new officials take office, nor did he even visit any mountain in Yuzhong County. Stay home. As a result, overnight, all those who secretly harvested and felled the giant trees on the mountain disappeared from the front of the stage to the backstage. They did not temporarily avoid their edge, but voluntarily evacuated and destroyed all account books. The lost characters are even more destroyed. The dozen or so shops in Yuzhong County alone were all closed and no one was left. Of course, there may be more unknown nails, all cleaned up by themselves. I just want to say that the Nan family, whose forces are intertwined in the whole Hangzhou, not long ago in the first month of the month, held a closed-door discussion in the ancestral hall. Excluded, removed from the family tree, and no reason was given. Some were unconvinced and shouted injustice, and some shouted arrogant and rude. The former was beaten with blood on the spot, while the latter was directly beaten to death in the ancestral hall. The hazy light rain is moist as crisp, and there are poor girls carrying baskets and selling apricot flowers along the street. In the end, Cao Mao found Lin Jingqing, who had white temples in a shop selling porcelain. He was similar to an old schoolboy in a county, but he didn't look so old. The shopkeeper was also an old man, and he was laughing at this brother Lin. Since he didn't have a lot of money in his pocket, don't be delusional. Don't think about the open-door goods in the shop. Lin Jingqing glanced at Cao Mao and his party at the door, put a porcelain bottle back on the shelf gently, and told the shopkeeper to come again next time. The shopkeeper waved his hand and spoke very aggressively. If brother Lin still has no money, don't come again. Lin Jingqing went out the door and asked, "Looking for me?" The young general handed the oil paper umbrella in his hand to Lin Jingqing, and he was just able to hold an umbrella with the woman beside him, killing two birds with one stone. Lin Jingqing was not polite, smiled and thanked the young man with scars on the back of his hands, and took the oil paper umbrella. Cao Mao first took out the military talisman, reported his name and the identity of the general of Yuzhou, and then explained softly, "I will have my life and I must go to Yuzhong County and the Logging Institute in person. I believe that the owner of the Lin Yuan has already received the above news." Lin Jingqing said indifferently, "Just go for a walk. Is it possible that the Logging Institute's threshold is so high that it can stop a general from Yuzhou from coming? If you say that General Chao is looking for me to talk about things, don't worry, I'll just pick it up secretly. I don't care about illegal logging or other military and political affairs. no matter how big or small. The few followers behind General Yuzhou felt that this Lin Jingqing was worthy of being a Beijing official, with a small official hat and a big tone. The prefects of a state would not dare to speak thorns with General Chao like this. Chao Mao was still very patient and said, "I believe that the head of Lin can understand the meaning of what Chao said. The stake is very important and there should be no mistakes. I still hope that the head of Lin can take a little time to sit down and have a good time. Discuss." Lin Jingqing smiled and said, "General Chao may have misunderstood. This logging institute is no different than the Chuzhou Kiln Supervision and Construction Bureau and the nearby Weaving Bureau. Its duties are very simple. Literally, it is only responsible for arresting those who harvest wood without permission. If the Yamen is lucky in the future, if they are not abolished, they will provide giant trees for the royal family and the Imperial Ministry of Industry as usual. So General Chao asked me to talk about business today. The wood that was classified as inferior by the Logging Institute, then I, the chief official, can open a convenient door for General Chao within the scope of my power. It is said that the officialdom has always been more efficient than the Ministry of War's Good News Department in passing gossip. But a local sesame official like me can't stand up to several impeachments in the 6 divisions in the capital. General Chao still needs to be more considerate." Chao Mao was a little helpless, and it was the most difficult to deal with such a person who pretended to be confused. Cheers on the face, charcoal in the chest. "I'm discussing with you the big matter of His Majesty's private visit. You talk to me about these sesame mung beans trivial affairs. Do you, Lin Jingqing, really care about the official friendship with a Yuzhou general?" Chao Mao then changed the subject and said with a smile, "It is said that the robbery has stopped now." Lin Jingqing nodded and said, "It is estimated that it is the name of the Logging Institute, and it is more able to scare people." The reason why Chao Mao is so patient is because as the confidant and love of Zhou Xian, the former Dali patrol envoy, Chao Mao needs to know more about the inside story than the entourage behind him. However, Chao Mao only knew 2 more things about the first director of the Logging Institute who was not visible, but it was enough for Chao Mao to be more cautious. The first thing is that Lin Jingqing is not from the capital of Dali, but from Lizidongshan. He moved to the capital later and only worked for many years in the Ministry of War. Second, Lin Jingqing is still the father of Lin Shi. There is an expert named Yuan Tianfeng in the Qin Tianjian in the capital of Dali. He is a white-clothed man and he is best at commenting on the moon day in Zhongfu. On Lin Shi's side, there was a prophecy of 100 years of Yuan Ying. In the next year he will enter the nascent soul realm. Is there something wrong? Didn't Lin Shi become the nascent soul within 100 years old? Another good person asked Lin Shi if he could be 100-year-old jade. Yuan Tianfeng just laughed without saying a word. Chao Mao now has a secret backer in the dynasty. His surname is Yan. He is a person who can reach the sky. If the Dali dynasty is in full swing, then this person is the shadow of the Dali dynasty. Chao Mao learned from this big man that Emperor Song he actually valued Lin Shi very much, and had long placed high hopes on this bookish young monk, and even was willing to cultivate him as a pillar of the future country. Therefore, in the early years, Lin Shi was deliberately appointed to take over as the minister of the Qing officials in the ancestral hall of the Ministry of Rights. In this noble position as the most powerful official in the Dali court, he would accumulate a few years of qualifications in the capital's officialdom. Even if he did not participate in the imperial examinations, he had previously served as a priest in the Dadu temple, and then he was promoted to the Minister of Rights by exception. There would not be too much dissent in the court. If Lin Shi regained the status of a gentleman of the academy in the future, then one day he would take over the Ministry of Rights. Things are up. In the future, the Dali Temple will have Zhao Yao in the Ministry of Punishment, Lin Shi in the Ministry of Rights, and the rest of the young and capable officials, civil servants and military generals. A young Yuan Ying in his early 40s. If it wasn't for Lin Shi, who was born in a strange place like Lizidongshan, the younger generation of about the same age would include Chen Pingan, Lu Xianyang, Ma Kushuan, Gu Kan. In addition, Lin Shi likes to practice quietly and devote himself to his studies. This made Lin Shi, who should have been more eye-catching, unable to gain a reputation that matched his cultivation and knowledge. Lin Jingqing didn't even invite them to go to the government office to take a seat and drink hot tea. Chao Mao was already mentally prepared to return without success. Thinking that it was really impossible, he paid for himself and bought a batch of wood that officials identified as inferior and unusable in private with the Logging Institute. I met another poor girl who was selling apricot flowers along the street. When I saw Chao Mao and Lin Jingqing and their group walking towards me, the flower girl immediately retreated to the corner of the wall and stood there. She was a little curious in her eyes, not just people seeing it. The fear of officials and the poor seeing the rich. The young military commander holding the umbrella handed over the oil paper umbrella to the female nun beside him. He walked over quickly, asked the girl about the price, took out the money bag, took out a few pieces of silver, and simply bought a basket of apricot flowers. When he came down, the woman who served as a cultivator in the military mansion of Yuzhou handed him the oil paper umbrella and took the flower basket. She took off an apricot flower and pinned it in her hair bun. The young general complimented her in lame words. The woman's beauty was as beautiful as flowers, and the man's love words were like mud. Lin Jingqing suddenly took the initiative and said, "General Chao and Chuzhou Luopao Mountain, are there any incense love?" Chao Mao's face was the same as usual. In the early years I met Shan Zhuchen, who was trained in Shujian Lake, once, but it was not a love affair and it was barely acquainted with each other, and I never met again after that. The few behind him heard about this for the first time and they were all very surprised. "We General Chao can do it, but we are old acquaintances with that young hidden officer?" Listen to the meaning, played, deal? Lin Jingqing didn't say much. All the officials in the Logging Institute knew that the head of the Forest Institute seemed to be in a bad mood during the first month of the new year. Maybe it's because you feel that the chief officer of this Logging Institute is not easy to be? He seemed to be waiting for something, but he didn't wait and he looked a little gloomy. In the late winter of last year, before the retreat, Lin Shui sent a secret letter to Jai Sfeng, reminding Qin Pingon that during the first month, he could go to the Logging Institute in Yuzhang County, Hangzhou, to visit the door to pay New Year's greetings. Lin Shui sent another letter to the Logging Institute, saying that he had already greeted Qin Pingon. The father and son, who had an extremely sparse relationship last time, had a few more conversations. According to Lin Shui's estimate, there was still a gap of 100 grain rain money needed for this retreat. When Lin Jingqing heard this number, he immediately retreated. With such an unfilial son who was like a beast swallowing gold, he could only continue to maintain his usual fatherly love. Hearing Lin Shui said that he had borrowed money from Qin Pingon, fill in the gap. Lin Jingqing was just half joking. Since he borrowed money from him, he doesn't need to pay it back. Lin Shui naturally did not dare to take it seriously. But Lin Jingqing actually prepared a gift for a certain junior. According to the estimate on the mountain, this thing is about 1 or 200 guyu money. This was one of his rewards for serving as a town keeper. For the young mountain owner whose family is so deep that it is bottomless, such a gift may not be anything at all. Another reward was that Cui Yu and Lin Jingqing had a guarantee that Lin Shui would become an official in the Dali court in the future, regardless of his achievements in Taoism. Lin Jingqing, who considers himself half a scholar and has worked in the supervision office for many years, takes this very seriously. Lin Shui, the word is new. The sage embraces one as the world's style and honors and defends the shame as the valley of the world. As the sun rises day by day, it is advisable to be cautious. Lin Shui's name and name were taken with the help of the national teacher Cui Yu. The last time Lu Chen was a stubborn guest at the Logging Institute, he was confused, joking, light and heavy, bright when he opened the skylight, and clear words that closed the coffin and said a lot. Here is another remark from Lu Shen, who claims to be a poor Taoist. The general meaning is that Lin Shui went to a certain opportunity because of his partiality as a father. The whole body, leading to a series of opportunities, everything is lost and everything is lost. And Lu Chen finally added that he set up a stall for fortune-telling back then, and he gave Lin Jingqing a hint. The implication is that what is your insistence, Lin Jingqing, that led to this? You are stubborn, but the poor road gave you and Lin Shui lots of extra kindness. You two, father and son, can't help but be appreciative. You have to be a little conscientious. So what if a poor Taoist eats a few zongzi from you? In fact, Lin Jingqing listened to it at the time, but Lin Jingqing, has been dealing with people in his life, and at most he regrets certain personnel matters, and he really has no regrets. As for Lin Shui's thoughts after knowing the truth. You, a son, dare to rebel against your father. The truth is that Lin Jingqing has always been very dignified on the side of his son, but it is not easy to ask Lin Jingqing to take the initiative to mention this. As the prefect of Chuzhou, Wu Yuan took the initiative to visit Gaoping, the city of the state. In a state officialdom, the two sides are considered equal. Wu Yuan took off her official robe, but she was standing outside the gate of the Zhou Qinghuang temple in casual clothes. A couplet with gold characters on a black background hangs at the door. The thoughts are dark, there are ghosts in the daytime, how many times can I save you? You whisper, God hears like thunder. Words and deeds are bright, and there is a blue sky in the dark room. Why come here to burn incense? Dare to lose heart, God's eyes are like electricity. Gao Ping, the lord of the city god who has never had any official entertainment, naturally would not show up to greet Wu Yuan, but there was a boy in red who jumped away from the incense burner, ran out of the temple of the city god, over the high threshold, and then he quickly ran down the steps, bowed respectfully and bowed to Wu Yuan, called out to the governor, and said some words about the scene of the great driver's visit to Pengpashengui. He lowered his head all the way and turned sideways, stretched out a hand, maintained this posture and led Master Wu into the temple of the city god. Wu Yuan came here to chat with Gao Ping, not related to official business, just to talk about anecdotes in the landscape and officialdom outside Chuzhou. For example, there are several key water vacancies now, and the Dali court has been undecided, and the central Dadu is only Changchun for the time being. Whether Ho and Uncle Lily will have another master of Dadu, everyone is curious. Like Jidu and Luzhou in the north, there are Duke Lingyuan and Duke Longting. Then there is the Tiefu River water god vacated after Yang Hua's promotion, and Qiantang Chong after Chao Yong's departure. It is not a trivial matter who they are to fill in the gaps. In addition, Xiao Luan, the water of the Baihu River, who was originally a sixth rank on the landscape genealogy of the Dali dynasty, recently merged with the upstream Taiquan River, and this water goddess rank was elevated to fifth rank. As for the old Iron Kupon River water Gao Brewing, the temple was relocated to Yunzhou, and it was transferred to the Shimei River water god. There is no impermeable wall under the sky, especially the well-informed landscape officials. When they look at this matter, they all feel that they are very chewy, just like the number of officials in Beijing. The officials in Beijing are released and the party in charge, even if the rank remains unchanged, of course. Reuse. The Wuxia River, one of the sources of the Shimei River, hides an ancient Shulong palace. The regulations are not high. After all, it belongs to the ancient inland dragon palace, but the skinny camel is bigger than a horse. No matter what, it is a genuine one. Dragon Palace. How can Huang Tinghua have this ability? Naturally, it was found by the monks of the Suzerain Dali dynasty, so when the Dragon Palace is really opened, the water transportation of the originally unknown Shimei River will naturally skyrocket. The status of God will rise with the tide. Wu Yuan had entered the door, Gao Ping walked out of the statue, and the boy in Zhu Yi had already greeted Miao Zhu to hurry up and fix a few hard dishes. While walking and chatting, Wu Yuan said with a smile after taking a seat at the Zhaitong, Hanxijiang's landscape genealogy and rank and Taifujiang water god are still 2 levels behind. If he wants to fill the gap, it is as difficult as going to the sky. Gao Ping nodded, so the strong recommendation from Emperor Huang Tinghua was of little significance, and the Dali court would definitely not agree. Wu Yuan asked with a smile, what the is this goddess of the Yuye River thinking, and why did she hint me that as long as I help her to transfer to other places, it will be fine? Any river in the territory of Dali with barren water transportation, there is no problem. She is even willing to lower the half-level status? Gao Ping picked up a peanut and threw it into his mouth and said, because of a big or small matter, I didn't handle it properly and the result was a big trouble, so I forged a relationship with Luapa Mountain. She always felt that she would stay in Yuye. Zhang, you can't sleep well. Instead of worrying about turning over old accounts every day, you might as well hide away. Wu Yuan teased. Gao Jiu has picked up a fat shortage. In the future landscape evaluation of the Ministry of Rights, the Shimei River in Yunzhou, it is difficult to think whether it is an excellent test language. Gao Ping said, it is estimated that it was the inspiration of Luapa Mountain. It is Wei Boss handwriting on the bright side. After all, it is a Beiyue Mountain monarch. The court still wants to sell him a little face. Aristocratic family. After a little inquiries, it was Wei Boss meaning, so I had to pinching my nose to recognize it. Wei Bo is a small-minded fellow with such a mountain gentleman who likes to hold night banquets, who is not afraid of having a night banquet next time. Wei Bo deliberately wears small shoes, the immortal mansion supported by several of their families, and the gods of mountains and rivers that they usually have a good relationship with, are not allowed to smash the pot and sell iron? Wu Yuan smiled and said, "It's difficult for Pai Yunshan to hold a night tour banquet again, isn't it? He is already the equivalent of Izhou Mountain Monarch in Immortal Realm. If you want to raise the status of God, how many gold and copper coins do you have to eat?" Even if the Dali court is more biased towards Beiwepiyun Mountain, and the treasury has surplus, it is impossible to do so, otherwise Zhongyue Mountain Jun Jinqing will definitely be the first to swear and go straight to the imperial study to quarrel. As for the rest of the Aquarius Mountain monarchs, especially Nanyue Fan Junmao, she would definitely not be vague about this kind of thing. Lin Shiyi's retreat place almost no one can guess. It is neither the capital of Dali, nor is it a cave in the northern mountain of Aquarius continent or some cave in the mountaintop of Zhongyue, but a slightly heavy-hearted but detached status in Dali. Changchun Palace. Changchun Palace, worthy of its name, seems to have an immortal king who asked Chun to stay in the mountains and rivers. It is better to live in leisure than to live in officials, and in the wild is better than in the dynasty. The landscape here is the most leisurely and wild. In a forbidden area that even the direct disciples of the ancestors were not allowed to set foot in. Surrounded by mountains like arms, surrounded by a lake, the mountains and rivers depend on each other and the eyes are beautiful. The scenery is as quiet as ancient times, and the days are as long as a small year. There are water pavilions with raised eaves and revetments, covered with blue-green glazed tiles, pillars on the water and flocks of birds as white as snowflakes, slowly falling on the water. The green trees on the shore make sound, the birds sound up and down, the algae in the water can be counted, and the breeze is like a gentleman. When passing by the water pavilion, it gently peels and pecks the bamboo curtains. Those who are sleepy in spring can wake up or not. In the waterside pavilion there is a sleeping couch, a table near the window, a censer, a few old and unmistakable ancient Buddhist scriptures, a stag tail used to repel insects and dust, a stack of landscapes, flowers and birds albums, and all kinds of study rooms. Both. A woman took a nap on the couch in the water pavilion. She just woke up, sat up, rubbed her eyes, stretched out and yawned, took a nap, glanced down at her embroidered shoes, raised her toes and picked her up. He picked up an embroidered shoe, thought about it and felt a little irritable, so he casually kicked the embroidered shoe, stepped on the ground with bare feet and walked out of the water pavilion. The water pavilion faced the lake and set up the beauty. This a lazy beauty, she put her arm across the railing and put her chin against her arm. She looked at the calm lake surface, her eyes blurred. No matter how beautiful the scenery is, if you see it every day it's like eating big fish and meat every day. You can't stop eating 3 meals a day and you will always get tired of it. There is a sign hanging around her waist with the single word Hai, which has been hailed as Ren Ding by monks since ancient times. The water pavilion corridor is paved with a kind of Xinjiao Yuzhu on the mountain, which is warm in winter and cool in summer. Someone with the word Yin hanging on his waist is sitting on a futon in the corridor, where he uses copper coins to fortune-telling, and there are several fortune-telling books like Jin Yuan Hai and Positive and Slanted Seals. A thin and sluggish young man sat cross-legged with a green bamboo stick on his knees. There was also a young man with a miserable face, leaning back against the colonnade and closing his eyes. In addition, a woman sat on the top of the water pavilion, her legs were hanging in the air, shaking gently. There was a young man in black with a sword on his back, standing alone outside the waterside pavilion, with a bamboo crown and the jade tree facing the wind. The group has been here for a long time indeed. The only thing they have in common is that they both have a plaque hanging from their waists, with only one character engraved, and they are all taken from the 12 earthly branches. This group of 6 people are members of the Dali branch. Duan Huajing Sun. Changjian Hai. Goving. Sui Lin. Hard work Sai. Zhou Haijing Ugly. Previously, the Dali court had cultivated 11 monks from the earthly branch regardless of the cost, and divided into 2 mountain camps, with the Prince Song Su and the Shangzhou Kingdom's surname Jinshu Yuan Huajing as their leaders. Yuan Huajing and Song Su are both swordsmen. One is from the top noble family in Dali, and has the surname of Shangzhou Kingdom, and the other is Tianhuang nobleman from a royal family. The boundary is a layer worse. Besides Song Su there were Han Zhoujin, Guling, Yiyu, Lu Hui and Hojue. On Yuan Huajing's side, there is Sui Lin, a yin-yang cultivator who is proficient in the 5 elements, and a female ghost who changes her beauty every day. With a bitter face, he is a mirror seller that is even rarer than the Gaian line. As Yuan Huajing, who is already a swordsman of Yuanying before the age of 100, if it is not because of his identity, he must hide behind the scenes, making Yuan Huajing less famous. Otherwise he will definitely be among the 10 young people in Aquarius Island, and his ranking will be high. Not long ago there was one more person in the terrestrial branch team. If you don't talk about killing power but only talk about fame, even if the 11 people are added together, they may not be such a person by far. It was the great female master who fought with Yu Hong in the capital of Dali not long ago, the mountaintop martial artist Zhou Xian. After Zhou Xian joined the Dali earthly branch as a peak warrior of the 9 realms, her appearance successfully filled the 12 earthly branches of the Dali dynasty. Although it is long overdue, good things are not afraid of being late. But because of her low experience, she has never participated in the war with the capital together, so she is not close to each other and she is not familiar with either side and she doesn't feel the need to get close to them. And because there were only 5 people on Yuan Huajing's side, Zhou Xian joined their team. As soon as Zhou Xian came, Gai Yan even met an opponent. The only female warrior in this branch of the earth. Every day she dresses up like a pile of gold and emeralds, with jewels from head to toe. The decoration is cumbersome, to the point of exaggeration. So when Yu saw Zhou Xian, the first impression was that this sister was a walking shop? Is it walking on the road? As long as someone is willing to ask for a price and falls in love with a certain piece of jewelry, Zhou Xian can take out anything and do business with others? Zhou Xian can barely talk to the Prince Song Su and Taoist Guling, who were the first to win her over. There is nothing to talk about with other people, especially with Gai Yan. Not including innuendo and quarrel, both women would feel uncomfortable. Zhou Xian, who was sitting on top of the green glazed tile, looked down at that Sui Lin who threw the copper coins again and again. This guy is a chi trainer from the Yin-Yang 5 Elements family. Pity. Zhou Xian smiled and said, Sui Lin, haven't you heard the teachings of a sage? Acting in line with morality, not divination, and acting contrary to morality, even divination is also evil. Therefore people should do divination by themselves, and the gentleman does not need to ask divination. Sui Lin turned a deaf ear. As an expert in numerology, he had nothing to talk about with a layman like Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian didn't even think about chatting with Sui Lin about those profound fortune-telling knowledge. It was just boring to talk about it. She never thought that the first serious thing after she joined the branch of the earthly branch was to come to Changchun Palace and give her people help guard. But on Songza's side, there are also 6 people, but they have a heavy responsibility at the moment. They have been instructed by Qin Tianjian to find an ancient treasure with great background and high rank. Because the 2 groups of people acted separately, Zhou Xian could not know more details. It is said that according to the tradition of the Earth branch, they will gather together afterwards to review carefully. It's just that there is a fart in the review. Treasure hunting, of course, is the best way to do it yourself. Even if all the harvest has to be returned to the public, it must be turned over to a secret vault in the imperial court. But it is very interesting to only talk about the process. She joined Song Su at the top of the mountain with a shameless face. Zhou Xian was really bored and couldn't help complaining. It's just a retreat for a cultivator of the nascent soul realm. As for how to inspire people like this, let's 6 of us drink the northwest wind here every day? Last winter, His Majesty the Emperor personally issued a secret decree for the 6 of them to come here to protect the scholar named Lin Shui. Nearly 2 months of time were spent just like that. The problem is that His Majesty did not say when they would be able to return to the capital. Looking at their posture, they would have to spend their time here if the guy didn't leave the country for a day. The beauty of Xie leaned on Yen, although she was also slandering about it, but if Zhou Xian said no, she would say yes and sneered, First, don't treat Yupu as a god. 60 years ago, there are only a handful of cultivators in the Jade Purity realm in our treasure continent, which is not so rare until now. In addition to the Wei and Jin dynasties of Fengshui Temple, there is also Xingyang Mountain, the owner of the mountain Zhu Huang, and the old patriarch of Manhua Peak. Furthermore, Lin Shui is the first Dalice person in the strict sense. As long as he is expected to enter the top 5 realms, the court must be cautious. 5 realms, in one fell swoop, became the first mountain monarch in the history of Aquarius continent to go to the 5 realms, so let alone a few of us, it would not be too much for more immortals to protect the customs together. This scholar who studied in the Zhou Xian Academy was born in Lizhu Cave. The key is that Lin Shi once served as the Chidu Temple blessing of the Dali dynasty. On the other hand, Qin Pingan in Luopao Mountain, Lu Xianyang, the current suzerain of Longquan sword sect, and Xia Ling, the swordsman of Yuanying who was born in Taoya Lane, each of them has a sect, and their relationship with the Song dynasty is really not a big deal. How good it is, not to mention the young hidden official who refused to serve as the national teacher. Even Lu Xianyang with the court of Dali showed a kind of alienation in his politeness. Zhou Haijing didn't answer at all and just continued to tease Sui Lin. Listen to you lent Qin Pingan 6 lock sword charms made of golden talismans? Do you want them back? Will you beat the dogs with meat buns? Sui Lin looked extremely embarrassed, took a deep breath and just pretended to be deaf. Except for Zhou Haijing, who finally joined the line of the Earth branch, the 11 of them were carefully selected by the national teacher Cui Yu, who have fought side by side for a long time and cooperated seamlessly. For example, Song Su owns 2 natal flying swords, Yi Lu and Tong Yao. The latter is named after the help of the national teacher Cui Yu. The former can ensure that when Sui Lin reverses the long river of time, the earthly cultivator will stabilize the Taoist heart. Plus the other monks have several magical powers. They cannot be entrained by the long river of time from beginning to end. They are as stable as a fairy. It's just a branch of the earth. The real killer is Yuan Huajing's second flying sword that is deeply hidden besides Fire Waterfall, called Backflow. It is said to be an imitation. As for which sword a mortal's birth sword is imitated, it is unknown. After the earthly branch monks formed the formation, Sui Lin sat in it holding the formation pivot. He could even reverse a long river of time, so he was the key person who helped everyone return from the dead. If you don't count the last fight, the previous fight with the young hidden official was not worth the pain. Sui Lin got a golden body fragment of an ancient from the guy, but it took longer than he expected, and it took 2 months for it to be completely refined, which is extremely beneficial to its own avenue. But if the time was reversed, the last fight could not be fought, let alone returning the golden body fragment. Even if Sui Lin gave another piece to the young hidden official, he would be willing to do so. It was really too much to suffer. Not only Sui Lin, I am afraid that except for Yu, who has the most heart, and the other 10 colleagues of the earthly branches, everyone has a psychological shadow, and they have not recovered until now. As soon as he heard Zhou Haijing call the young hidden official by his first name, Sui Lin was worried that he would be harmed, so he eavesdropped on someone. For example, Gai Yan's face became embarrassed on the spot, and for the first time he didn't quarrel with Zhou Haijing. No wonder they were so timid. In the last fight in the capital of Dali, their memory was not erased. They even had to break the common sense and not go back to the game. The 11 people had a very tacit understanding and no one mentioned it. As if there was no such thing. Yu was pulled out by the unsympathetic guy who held down her face and pulled out all her soul. Like a Confucian sage with a mouthful of Xianxia, just saying the word flower blossom, he used dozens of sharp swords to nail Lu Hui into a hedgehog. Gai Yan was even more described by him as a Pianyue, who created his own swordsmanship. He even wore a robe and golden armor, and was dismembered to pieces by countless sharp sword lights in an instant. The stubborn end was probably due to an old acquaintance with that person, and he showed mercy. As for him, Sui Lin, the elusive guy, came behind him and punched through Sui Lin's back with a punch. Sui Lin lowered his head and could see the man's fist. As a one-character master, Lu Hui is even more pitiful. First, those long swords were imprisoned, and then a long spear condensed by the opponent's martial arts was stabbed into the neck. Hanging high in the air. Zhou Haijing asked with a smile, "You are so afraid of Qin Pingan? Why do I think he is so easy to talk to? Every time I meet him he is always friendly. He has always been puzzled. It seems that everyone has a hope of becoming a proud person in the 5 realms. As long as she mentions that name one by one, they will be forcibly poured into the things that don't drink alcohol." A big bowl of spirits with snot and tears all over his face, was extremely embarrassed. Hearing that name, Gai Yan's face changed slightly again, her body was tense and the veins on the back of her hands burst out. Zhou Haijing was keenly aware of the strangeness of this dead enemy, and was about to add fuel to the fire to say a few words about his friendship with Qin Pingan, how the other party invited him to come out. Yuan Huajing said, Zhou Haijing, don't gossip, think about how to get to the top as soon as possible. Zhou Haijing didn't take Yuan Huajing too seriously and continued, it's not like the 11 of you once joined forces and then Qin Pingon overturned them all? In an instant, if a fire dragon surrounds the Zhouhai mirror and the top of the water pavilion, the flame is as thick as the mouth of a well, and the light is dazzling so that the green glazed tiles have faint signs of melting. Zhou Haijing twitched the corners of his mouth, and he was surrounded by a mighty martial artist like a god, protecting him from the scorching heat of the fire dragon. She stretched out her hand and patted her heart. Yo, the flying sword of Yuan Yingjing Jiangxia's life. I was so frightened that my face turned pale and the deer rammed. On the other side of the water pavilion corridor, he had been leaning on the pillar to close his eyes and recuperate, and suddenly opened his eyes. Zhou Haijing's consciousness was all mellow and it was really difficult to end, so she had to raise her hands and she reached out and patted her cheek a few times. If you're afraid of you know that bullying a newcomer like me, I said something wrong, I clap your mouth. Yuan Huajing put away the flying sword fire waterfall, and said solemnly, this is not an example. Zhou Haijing touched the slightly hot glazed tile around her with her finger. The original green pattern had been distorted by the flames. She raised her arm and shook her numb fingers. It seems that the real killing power of Yuan Huajing's flying sword lies in its ability to kill. Secretly pulling human aura and boiling people's soul? Dealing with pure martial arts, the effect is a little worse. Cleaning up chi warriors, it is indeed more effective. Sacrificing flying swords is like setting up a fire. Without penetrating the cultivator's body, you can cook a person's spiritual energy like boiling water from a distance. Yuan Huajing walked to the waterside pavilion, his eyes still stayed on a hill opposite the lake. I don't know if Song's group of people secretly infiltrated the ancient battlefield site smoothly. It is said that Qin Tianjian found clues by observing the sky, but in fact it was the result of Yuan Tianfeng's calculations. The most unusual place, according to the guess given by Qin Tianjian, is that there is a round of ancient broken big sun hidden here, which has turned into the golden crow was only submerged in spiritual cultivation and fell into a long sleep. I don't know if it was pulled or induced by some kind of traction. In short, it didn't gradually wake up until not long ago, and Yuan Tianfeng immediately found the clue. Song Su and the six rushed over immediately. At the same time he brought a heavy treasure of Dali Miku that can be used as an overwhelm. Yuan Tianfeng spent a lot of financial resources of the Dali court in Qin Tianjian these years, and he finally developed a precision instrument that can test the vibration of the ley lines. Yuan Huajing and Song Su are actually the two most misunderstood people. Compared to Zhou Haijing and Gai Yan, they are only superficially the same. But after the accident happened last time, the two sides had an open and honest dialogue, but they solved their knots. What both sides said is taboo. It's just that while the knot in the heart is unraveled, the two sides have a new knot. Before Song Su left, he said, let's not be an example. In fact, this prince, who was in a lower level of Yuan Huijing, was regarded as a leader of the earthly branch. However, Yuan Huajing thought he would be angry, but he didn't. Probably just as Song Su said, his heart has fallen. Gong drilling pot umbrella, chain, teaching, chanting. Therefore Song Su was sure that the most likely demons were not Sui Lin and Lu Hui, but Yuan Huajing, a sword cultivator who lost to the sky. Qin Pingon had different reminders and suggestions for the monks of the Earth branch. For example, let Sui Lin go to the Chongshu Bureau and the Translation Bureau of the capital, and integrate the Buddhist and Taoist teachings to abide by the one law. On Lu Hu's side, Qin Pingon gave a very weighty promise that if he couldn't break through the realm, he could help teach a broken word order that belongs to Confucian Qi refining. Yuan Huajing guessed that the appearance of the Golden Crow was most likely related to Lin Shi's retreat. He even suspects that Yuan Tianfeng's appearance in the capital of Dali is to run towards this Lin Shi, at least one of Yuan Tianfeng's main purposes. Yuan Huajing has always been curious about one thing. It is said that Lin Shi's Taoist book is just a book of lay fa Taoism called Lang Lang Book on the Clouds. It can be said that Lin Shi's cultivation path is similar to that of mountains and fields. Xiao is self-taught. It is a pity that there is no copy of this book in the Dali court. Wei Bo appeared at the gate of Piyun Mountain, but of course he used a trick. Because Xing Dafeng came here without saying hello, Wei Bo always felt that this guy was going to the Three Treasures Hall without incident, and he had to take it easy today. With a smile on his face, Xing Dafeng reached out and grabbed Wei Shanjun's arm. Brother Wei, I have to discuss something with you. Wei Bo knew something was wrong and said without hesitation, we are the female officials of the various divisions of Shanjun Mansion. Don't think of me introducing you to one. Xing Dafeng looked sad. If the droughts and floods are evened out, wouldn't it be the best of both worlds? Wei Bo laughed angrily. Don't even think about it. Xing Dafeng said, you and I are close friends, right? Wei Bo kept his face straight and didn't talk. Xing Dafeng said, I am half the elder of Qin Pingon again. After all, I watched him grow up. If I hadn't been downcast now, I would have to live in Luopao Mountain. Qin Pingon called me Uncle Xing. He was a courtesy. I'm not sorry, right? Wei Bo said helplessly. Xing Dafeng, don't beat around the bush. Mai is very flustered. Xing Dafeng complained. What are you in a hurry? I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Let's go. The two of us will climb the mountain together first and then go to the UFU division and the EG division. Anyway, we just find a quiet place to have a good drink, no drunk. Wei Bo stood still. You clarify things first, otherwise don't blame me for not reading about brotherhood. Xing Dafeng said bitterly. Apart from women, your brother Wei is the first man who can hurt my heart. It seems that I really can't get along with you in the future. Wei Bo put his hand on his forehead. Xing Dafeng sat on the steps. Wei Bo had to sit down with him. Qin Pingon and Ning Yao are Taoist companions, right? Ning Yao is the #1 person in the colorful world again, isn't he? I'm in Ascension City, but I have great status and prestige and am half an elder of Qin Pingon. You and I are good brothers and good buddies who trust each other. Wei Bo heard it like a cloud. Didn't you just come back? Ning Yao asked me to give it to you as a thank you gift from Wei Shanjun for taking care of someone in Luopao Mountain for so many years. Don't worry, this thing does not belong to Feishing City and Summer Palace. Xing Dafeng finally stopped selling the ties, took out a wooden box from his sleeve, slapped Wei Bo's hand heavily and said with a smile, Congratulations to Wei Shanjun, we have to hold another night tour banquet that everyone wants. On the other side of Luopa Mountain, Xiao Mo appeared in the bamboo building and asked, Young master, it's not a trivial matter for her to sneak out of Luopa Mountain. Do you really need me to follow her? Qin Pingon smiled and said, Since she let you know about it on purpose, it's more useful if you don't go. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.